Hello, hello. What is up, Scream Team? Zach's fashionably late as usual. 3 minutes. That ain't too bad, I don't think. Uh, how's everyone doing tonight? We are 3 weeks away from the release of Scream 7. Sorry, I just had to check to make sure my microphone was working. 3 weeks away. Um, it's always an exciting time when there's a new Scream movie on the horizon. And, I know I've been, I guess, negative about this movie for my own reasons. Nothing that's more, I guess, like closely aligned to, whatever the plethora of reasons are that people are hating on this movie. Um, but I'm here to just have a good time tonight. Um, and to keep things within the realm of positivity as much as I can, but I'm gonna be realistic because I think first and foremost, that is who I am. I want to offer my opinion as I see it, and I always encourage people to be that as well. But having said that, please be that within the parameters of respectfulness, because there is a lot of BS floating around out there, and I think that above all else, we just need to be respectful of one another. And I pride myself on having a channel where people can be respectful and have debates with one another in a way that isn't tearing someone else down, or being hateful in any way. So just wanted to put that out there. Everyone is welcome to be here, but don't be a doofus. And I've got my moderators here with me tonight, so fortunately they'll be keeping an eye on things. But yeah, I'm gonna try to answer as many questions as possible. We're gonna do some polls if it comes to that. There's a lot to talk about here. And if you have a question you wanted to like jump to the top of the list, you can always do a super chat. Those are always very much appreciated as well. But yeah, I don't think I've done a live. I don't do like YouTube live streams very often. Like we do the cherry picker recordings live over on my Patreon. But I think the last time I did a live stream was post. I know what you did last summer, 2025. We were talking about that movie in more of a review, and I had a lot to say about that. But yeah, otherwise, this is a rarity. Do you think Stu is alive? Okay, and sorry, I missed who said that. That's gonna come up a lot. Um, Personally, I don't think that Stu is alive. I think that, we very much saw him die in the original. There, my feeling is that there will definitely be um, it'll be teased in a way that like, could Stu be alive, and is this Stu that's doing this? I feel like that's very much going to be a through line within Scream 7, but ultimately it will not be Stu. Dance Century 593. Yo, Zach, can we get a breakdown of Olivia murder when Charlie was calling from the closet? That scene was fire. It is a really good scene. And yes, I have at least, I need to like count all together. I think there was like 23 different Who Killed Who videos, most of them being mappings, and then of course like the redos of the Screams 1 to 4, which I'm working on, and I'm probably going to do them sequentially. So the next one that should be coming out is actually out of sequence, but it's like the events before Scream. So Maureen Prescott's murder, but then we'll go into Scream 2, Scream 3, 4, 5, 6, all that. So there will be a video on that, very much so. Super chat, thank you very much, the king of all horror, for your $5. I would love for Jill and Amber to be resurrected as the Ghostfaces of Scream 7. Okay, like I don't want to see any dead characters come back, but I kind of like when they announced the movie and they're sort of like announced the cast and we knew that Matthew Lillard was coming back and we knew that Scott Foley was coming back. I kind of like had this idea in my mind that it would be really cool if like whatever they're doing, however they're using them, kind of brought all the killers back and did a if anyone is a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I always use this as an example. So the first episode of the final season, season 7, where Spike is like being tortured by the first in the basement of the school, and the first, essentially, for anyone who's not familiar, is this like incorporeal evil that has like no visage of its own. It just sort of takes the form of dead people. And then it did this thing where it morphed into all of the big bads of each season. So I just thought it would be really funny if Sydney has like some sort of like video chat or like AI thing of like the killer morphing from like all the way from like Billy to the Baileys of Scream 6. Vinko, ooh, Zach, I want you to know I love you. Thank you very much. I love you as well. You guys are sweet. Hi Zach, I'm sorry, MB1865. Hi Zach, I'm a wild fan of you, buddy. Well, thank you very much. I just for like appreciate all of you guys. I am like I always find it hard to like take compliments and criticism. But I do hear you and I do see it and I appreciate that very much. Anyway, the I'm sorry, to answer the Amber Jill of it all. Yeah, in that capacity, I would love to see them, but not like them solely together. And I don't think that Amber and Jill, like you have to when you think of like Ghostface partnerships, I always find like who is compatible with one another, and I just don't think that Amber and Jill would really mesh very well. I think that like Jill would go really well with someone like maybe Detective Bailey. I could see because like his kids were not the most competent in that movie, and I could just see like a scenario where Jill would be a lot more useful to him and vice versa. And then Amber, I think that Amber was like well suited to Richie. But yeah, like the two of them together. But that's not to say like that I would never want to see two women Ghostface killers. Like that's something we haven't seen yet, and maybe we will see it in this movie. Hey Zach, do you think? Sorry, Godchild. Zach, do you think there will be 3 Ghostfaces in Scream 7? I really hope not. I think that 2 is the magic number. I don't want to see 1. I think that that's if it's just one killer, you're kind of robbing us of a dynamic, because I think that's something that's just very important to the reveal at the end, is just to sort of see this relationship between the killers. And when you have 3, it almost like it gives each one of them like a little bit less to do, and that's what I didn't love about the 6 finale, in that it was very like Detective Bailey heavy, but then the kids didn't really contribute very much, and still like that whole family dynamic. I feel like there's a lot that could have been contextualized a little bit more with that. Some more super chats. The King of All Horror again. Thank you very much for another $5. Are you more so pessimistic about Scream 7? It's gonna suck, or more so optimistic it will rock no matter what, even if cautiously so? I think like pessimistic wise, okay. I'm not even gonna mince words here. I really don't like Scream 6. I'm not gonna say I hate it. I really don't like it. And 5, when it first came out, like I did enjoy it for a time, but I found that it sort of like diminishing returns. Like it didn't have a lot of rewatchability, and there were things about it that I didn't love. And with 6, it seemed like all of the things that I did like about 5 were kind of pushed to the wayside, and they just focused on all the stuff that I didn't like, and doubled down on it. And it just Scream 6 left a really bad taste in my mouth for what the franchise is and has become. So I think I'm kind of riding that wave of just being very trepidatious about like where it could go next. Like these, it's the same writer, even though like Kevin Williamson is partially or fully. I don't know the exact amount of the script that is he's responsible for, but it's still kind of like coming off of the consistency of those. And I know that Kevin Williamson really loved Scream 6, so I don't know what to expect, but I'm of the mind that like I'm happy that we have the original trilogy, and everything that like comes after that, you know, for better or worse, is just sort of an accoutrement of it. So I have had my fill of Scream. I'm satisfied either way, but you know, I always want the movie to be good, so I'm hoping that it is good. But that is my pessimism. Vinku again. Thank you for the $10. Okay, Zach. I think Ghostface burning it all down. I think Leslie's ending the franchise. And will you do a bit breakdown, killed by kill, like you did with the party scene for each kill in the franchise, like a who killed who? I that is all contingent on whether it's like there are multiple killers in this, and you know, if they don't fully are, elaborate on who killed who, because they usually don't. I do find in maybe more of the recent ones, like people will claim like this is me, or it was really obvious, like with Amber, for instance. Um, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I love the who killed who videos. Like I love that kind of logistical, like over examining of the evidence of these movies. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. So I will absolutely be doing that, and I hope that there's an abundance of set pieces that will kind of allow for that to happen. So yeah, very much so. Thank you for that. Jorge Corral, hey, good to see you here. I wish all the past Ghostfaces and dead characters weren't announced months ago. Some things deserve a surprise reveal. Example, Samantha finding out that she's in Stu Macher's house instead. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think that they definitely wanted to capitalize off of the Stu Macher, like Matthew Lillard fan base, and things like that. And even like with David Arquette being announced, it would have been a nice surprise. It almost like it's giving me the last Spider-Man movie where they brought the old Spider-Man back, and I think it was like everyone knew about it. It was all over the place. So when it actually happened in the movie, it was just sort of like, yeah, but if that would have landed as a really amazing thing if we weren't expecting it. So I'm not really sure. You know, it could be a situation where knowing that they're in it might actually benefit our understanding of the material going into it. But if it is a situation where we get like halfway through the movie and suddenly Stu or Roman or whatever pops up, then it's sort of like, well, we need to expect that. King of all horror again. Thank you. Another $5. If you were gifted a perfect replica of the Macher house, would you enjoy living in it with all its 90s style nooks, crannies, nested areas, etc.? I don't know. I don't think that like the Macher house is really my style. It's very like grandma's like country house sort of thing. I don't even know how like I would be able to redecorate it and not have what it looks like. I mean, it's a nice spot to visit for a weekend or a party, you know, or an Airbnb, for that matter. But no, I don't. I think that like my favorite house of just like, let's just look at the original movie, would probably be Sydney's house. I think that like the vista of just sort of like the rolling hills in the background, it's just a really pretty view, and that house is huge as well, and it's a lot more modern as well. Even though like I believe like the Macher house, the people in real life who owned it, they built it and then they passed away shortly thereafter, so it was a newer build. But yeah, I think I like Sydney's house, or prefer that. And there's like a pool. I was looking on Google Maps for when I did the who killed who, or the mapping out of the Sydney house. So yeah. Uh, uh, Vinku, again, am I saying that right? Vinku, thank you for the $10. I meant like how you did the party scene timeline at the ending of one and beginning. Will you map out each kill? P.S. How's macabre? Uh, yeah, like the mapping out. Absolutely. Like if it calls for it. Like if Scream 7, like it just a way to kind of like really understand the blocking and see all of that, then if there is a scene that warrants that, or multiple scenes, that will absolutely be something that I do. And thank you for asking about macabre. Not a lot of people have. Macabre is really going well right now. We have one festival coming up, Idlewild, which is next month in California, and we had actually won jury's choice for short at oh my gosh, I forget which festival it was, but we won jury short, best short, or jury's choice best short, and then we won best director, and I think this was Atlanta or something. So like pretty cool. I'm very proud of that. It's exciting, and we're like finishing the script for the feature. So that's on the horizon, and we have all sorts of ideas like how we want to kind of like approach this, and like strategies of just getting this made. And yeah, we're really excited about it. I'm glad that you guys are excited as well. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to catch up. Adrian, hey, how's it going? Thank you for the $5. Adrian Phillips. Will the CCTV be used to exonerate killers as the fake out to confirm their attacks? Do you hope for any particular killer? Also, love you. Love you too, Adrian. The CCTV be used, like, am I missing something from the trailer? I know that like we were watching Sydney looking on her phone to see things, if that's what you're meaning. Um, I don't know. I really hope that we're not gonna go the route of fake outs personally with us. Like we've done it so many times, or just like someone getting attacked and that being like the thing. Okay, we know that it's not them. I want to see like a few change ups, but I don't know. I really want Scream 7 to actually be something different. I don't have a lot of faith that it will, but it would be nice if it is. Make sure I didn't miss another one above that. Okay, so we got the King of All Horror again. Thank you for the $2. Charlie versus Mrs. Loomis. Which Ghostface wins? I mean, that's easily Mrs. Loomis. I think that like she's got the ability to manipulate Charlie into doing her bidding. But then again, I mean, like Charlie was doing things for Jill because she had something to offer him, and I don't know that he would get that same thing from Mrs. Loomis. So it's hard to tell. They're both equally like they have their strengths in different areas. But I mean, in terms of like who I like better, obviously Mrs. Loomis. Okay, so I'm caught up on that. Sarah Campbell, hey Sarah, how are you? Zach also has a great Patreon. If you would like to support him, here is the link. And then she put the link. Thank you, Sarah. Just doing the Lord's work here. Appreciate you so much. Sarah actually gave me this wonderful Ghostface hat. Thank you very much. Meme Fa, has anything changed from your killer? Oh, let me find that. From your killer predictions since the prediction video. Okay. Let me just take a sip here. I don't know if it's changed. The thing with that prediction video is like I just threw out a bunch of wild ideas. It was maybe more so, I don't know if it was even wishful thinking of just being like, what is the most bombastic thing? But I kind of wanted to like run this theory by you guys because this is something that has been like I just like popped out at me while watching like the more recent TV spots. In that Ghostface and Gale both say something very interesting, but it's almost like verbatim they say the same thing. So Ghostface, says to Sydney on the phone, like, your daughter is the same age as you were when this all happened. And then we see the interview between Sydney and Gale says the exact same thing. Now, this might be like me, like going back to like Scream 4 and more so like deleted scenes from Scream 4, because this would have taken place with the water fountain stuff with Charlie. But the sentiment there was, when Ghostface is talking to Sydney later, and she's like, "This is not a movie," and Ghostface says, "It will be," is the exact same thing that Charlie says to whoever brings it up at the fountain. I think it was like Trevor, and I don't know, like that just struck me as very odd that like Gale is repeating the same thing. And I'm not saying that Gale is going to be the killer, but could you imagine if she was? And I mean, she's gone through it in the last two movies here with the whole Dewey of it all. And if like they were really going to do something to shock us or whatever, like make Gale the killer, I don't know if it would work. Just based on like the Gale that we've known over 7 movies. But if they did it and they found a way to execute it successfully, then I don't know. I think that would be really interesting. I don't know what her motive exactly would be. I don't even know if she's like would be targeting Sydney or trying to kill Sydney. But it definitely seems like daughter Tatum is a target here. But yeah, I'm gonna be keeping my eye on Gale when I see this, just to see if there's something off about her. But yeah, just a thought. Some more super chats. Let me just find them here. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Jesus Quiros. I hope I said that right. Thank you for the $4.99. Do you think Angelina Tyler will be brought back in any capacity? She wasn't killed on screen and never listed as an official kill. I mean, she was killed on screen. Are we rewriting that? We saw her get stabbed. We saw her get dragged away. I think that this misconception around this, and I love, thank you, like I love discussing the theory of 2 killers in Scream 3, because I think that there are a lot of clues throughout the movie that warrant this to actually be a thing. I think that it legitimately could be a headcanon. I don't think that, even if she was working with him as she was in the original script, I don't think that her death was faked. There's not really any need for that to be faked at that point. If that was a thing and he killed her, then he killed her to, just get like tie up loose ends. It's almost like we were seeing like Mrs. Loomis take out Mickey or Jill take out Charlie before the reveal. It just happened earlier. So then like Sydney and company would never know about it. And then of course in the original trilogy DVD box set, they forgot to include her picture in the RIP section. So it just further embellished this headcanon. But no, I don't think that she will be brought back. I think she's very much dead. The King of All Horror, thank you again for the $2. Thoughts on the Scream TV show? I mean, I watched it all. The 3rd season was kind of a train wreck. I wish that they had carried on from like the first 2 seasons, but I've never revisited the TV series. So, I mean, for me, like Scream is Scream and Ghostface and all that. And, obviously they tried to do Ghostface with season 3 and it just did not work. But it's all right. It's worth a watch for sure. There's far worse things. And then King of All Horror again. Thank you. Also, you really should have a Discord. Okay, I'm gonna sound like an idiot here. I have no idea what a Discord is. I'll look it up. But is it like a Reddit or something? It's some sort of social media. I have no idea. But that's just me admitting ignorance with that. Yeet Maget. Zach, what do you think of the TV spots of Scream 7 and what do you think of what the movie theater scene could look like? Okay, so to be perfectly honest, like I think I've seen all of the TV spots, but I haven't really like combed through them frame by frame. Like I'm not really interested in doing any of that. I really want to kind of like I have opinions about the way that the movie looks, that are not completely positive. I want to kind of save any sort of criticism at this point for like once I see the movie and can just like judge it appropriately with like just like a full scope of what the material is and just like more of an informed opinion. But there was something in one of the trailers, which might be digitally added, I have no idea. Sorry, Discord is basically the new Skype. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I didn't even really use Skype ever, but thank you for that, Evan, the movie guy. But yeah, the thing in question in the trailer, the TV spot, was Sydney looking at this framed photograph of the group in Scream 1 at the fountain. And it wasn't like a screenshot. It was like an actual like behind the scenes BTS promotional image of like the actors like turning to the camera and some of them are smiling. And I guess that this is in like this mental facility, like this room that she's looking in. So someone has this image. And it just, I hate that because it takes me out of the movie. It's like you look at that and you know that that is a scene from the original, even though that image itself, like nobody was there to take a picture. Even if it was like before we come into the scene of them at the water fountain, like it's just, I see that and it's distracting. It makes it like breaks the fabric of like, the glamour of just like that we're watching a movie. I want to be like immersed in this universe, and that not only the fact that I know that that's a scene, but the fact that I know that that is a BTS promotional image, it just really fucks with me. But people were saying that it looked kind of like digitally imposed on there, so it might be a photo of something else. Because we know in the Scream 6 marketing that they did that quite a few times with several things. So again, I want to wait for the movie before I fully, judge anything here. Some more super chats coming in. Sarah Campbell, thank you for the $5. Do you think we'll actually get any of the cool popcorn buckets here in Canada? Were the popcorn buckets available for Scream 6? I know the big cup was, but I don't know. I mean, it would be nice. I don't personally need it. I know that there are people who like collect these things, like they're the new Beanie Babies or Funko Pops. It's not really, my thing. Like I try not to collect so much stuff anymore. Mostly like I'll physical media is most of what I collect. But yeah, I hope that there is. That would be really cool. Sounds like you want to get your hands on one. So for your sake, I hope that we do. King of All Horror, thank you again. Is a Scream prequel movie a good or bad idea? Absolutely a terrible, bad idea. I don't see any way that it would work. I don't like prequels in general. There are some exceptions to this, if it is telling a story that is not reliant on like having things tie into that. I think like a great example is, what Pearl is to X, because you can watch those movies completely independent of one another and it doesn't change a thing. You don't need to kind of go backwards and see everything. We know what happened with Maureen Prescott. We know what happened in Hollywood in the 70s. There are no new stories to tell moving backwards. Like, here's a great example of that is the Dexter prequel series, which I enjoyed. I think it was good. I much preferred the Resurrection series that came after that, where they just brought back Michael Hall to play him. And I remember like the upset when it was announced that the prequel series was canceled, but all I could think was, I mean, that makes sense. Like, how could they go any further with that? What other stories are there to tell? We know who these characters are. And at what point do you get to where Patrick Gibson then turns into Michael C. Hall? Like, it's just like it's confusing. So, I think that we can pump the brakes on prequels for most franchises, but especially Scream. And that's just how I feel about that. Don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface 1993. Thank you for the $5. I'm okay with Stu being alive and mentoring the killers, but not being the killer. What if the Ghostface calls and says it, and Gale repeats the question, like in terms of like what is said in the interview and the like on the phone? I mean, that is very much a possibility, and like depending on where in the movie that takes place, like the killer could be watching the interview and then call Sydney after and repeat the line that he or she, whoever the killer is, heard on the interview. But I can't see a scenario where Stu is alive. It's just we saw him die. It has been confirmed many a time throughout the franchise that he is dead. So it would just be a lot of mental gymnastics for them to kind of retcon this and just like what happened. Was he taken away to a secret facility at one point where he recovered? I mean, like, Stu, even if he is alive, that would have been something, like the characters would have been privy to that. Gale would have known when like the paramedics were there and she's delivering her final report at the end of the movie. But like, above other things, like, Stu is in prison for life. They murdered Maureen Prescott, Steve, Casey. Even if he wasn't the one to kill all of these like people, whether it was like Billy or Stu, he's still an accessory. You've got Kenny Tatum, Principal Himbry. So, I mean, that is just multiple life sentences there, not to mention like kidnapping with like Neil, like all these things, conspiracy to commit murder. Like, they will rack up those years. He is going to die in prison if he is alive. Having said that, I think that it might, like, let's just bend the rules and say that Scream's universe doesn't have the same legal system as us. If there was a scenario where Stu was alive and he was sort of like reformed, like in almost like a Clockwork Orange situation, and was released into society, I think that he would make a really fun red herring, like almost like the way that Cotton is in Scream 2, where he's released from prison and there's this lingering suspicion of like, is he wanting to get revenge on Sydney for wrongly accusing him? So I mean, that would be the only scenario that I would accept, but even then it's a bit of a push. I think I'm up to speed. Okay, there it is. One more. Abandon 06, aka Garrison. Thank you for the $5. What would make Scream 7 officially jump the shark for you? I don't know. There's so many things they could do. Like the daughter being the killer. Sydney dying would definitely not work. It's hard to think of like any sort of thing. Like, honestly, I feel like in a way, Scream 6 kind of jumped the shark with a lot of things. Like, it wasn't like one big shark, it was just a series of little sharks. So I don't know. I'm in Sharkville at this point. Like, we're just swimming with the sharks. Uh, I just don't want to get eaten, but I'll enjoy it as long as it lasts. And that's what I think of that. Let's see. Silent Saturn. Hey, Daniel. I don't need a redemption arc for Stu. He can stay dead. Fair enough. The Hapsodist, the Rhapsodist, 976. Stu being alive is ridiculous. His head was crushed by the TV and he was electrocuted. He's dead AF. Not to mention he was bleeding out from all the stab wounds. So, a lot going on there with him. Do you think that any other past Ghostface will have an appearance in Scream 7? Thank you, Ellis and Edits. Um, Maybe. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, you see Skeet Ulrich, like, being very coy, being like he's not coming back. But if like Matthew and Scott are going to be there, I can very well see them, like, surprising us with more anyway. Uh, King of all horror, thank you again for the $2. Couldn't Stu revive in and escape from the morgue? Well, I mean, that's the thing. If he escaped, that would be all over the news. Like, people would talk about that for years to come. Um, Not that I give like 100% credence to Kirby's murder board in Scream 6, where she has all the ghost faces and the masks left behind and all that, but it does say like Stu died in 1996 or whatever. Like, there's the date of death for all of these people. Of course, the dates are wrong for several of them, and also it's kind of weird that everyone has like a red carpet image or a headshot. Stu is the only one that looks like an authentic photograph there. Like, I could bitch about that fucking murder board for forever, but yeah, I feel that, like, if he was alive, we would have at least at the very least they would never have confirmed his death. Like, outside of whatever this conversation was between Kirby and Mindy. Silent Saturn, thank you for the £5. Scream 5 is pretty awesome, just saying. I mean, Scream 5 for me ranks fifth. There are elements that I like about it, but I think overall it doesn't satisfy me. But I respect the fact that you love Scream 5, and I know that Richie is your favorite killer, and I respect that fact as well. Abandon06, thank you again for the $5. Scream 6 is the most entertaining new sequel. Um, yeah, Scream 6 definitely has more exhilarating set pieces. I think, like, in terms of action, it is doing a lot more, and a lot more things that Scream 5 did not do. But 6 ultimately it's makes less sense. I think that thematically it doesn't work from just like a level of like who these characters are and just like the consistency from the first movie to the next. I really don't like the fact that, like, when we see Sam and Tara in Scream 5, like the issues within their relationship is that Sam left Tara, she abandoned her, and has come back 5 years later, and it's the fact that she wasn't in her life. And now in Scream 6, Sam and Tara are like it's almost like Sam is too clingy for Tara now, and she's like, get out of my life, I don't want you in my life, which is just like a complete about face of like where they started. So it felt like they weren't even like understanding their own characters that they were writing. So it was a little maddening. And then the whole thing with like, this is about franchises. Like, it's been about franchises since Scream 2. So it felt very lazy. The King of all horror, thank you again. Should Scream 7 give Ghostface more guns, weapons? No guns. I mean, I think that the guns work when the unmasking has happened. But like throughout, I don't want to see a shotgun and things like that. In terms of more weapons, I am fine with like an arsenal of different implements. I think that something that this franchise lacks is like a little bit more versatility in a way. You know, most things are stabbings with the buck knife. That's not to say that I don't think that there's ways that they've been creative with the different kills, but I always think of like Valentine 2001, which is so underrated. And it's coming up Valentine's Day. I think it just had its 25th anniversary, but watch Valentine this month to celebrate. But I always love how the killer in that like just has a plethora of different things, whether it's like you know using the hot iron or the bow and arrow, the drill, and then in the hot tub, all that stuff. Just really fun. So yeah, I think that Ghostface could definitely use a little bit more, but yeah, no shotguns or anything. King of all horror again. Thank you. Do you yourself own the buck knife? No, I do not. I just have regular kitchen knives that I use to prepare food in the kitchen. Although I don't know if anyone saw it. It was like just fans were swarming Scott Foley and getting him to sign things, and one of them brought a knife. I don't know if it was like a real actual knife, but it was like some sort of Scream adjacent thing, and they wanted him to sign it. And his bodyguard was just like, "Don't bring that here! Like that like next time, don't do that." And Scott is just like, he's like, "Yeah, I'll sign it." And they're like, has anyone ever asked you to sign a knife before? He's like, "Nope, this is the first time." He's so slick, like just like him, like his, ability to work the crowd and any fans is kind of like a marvel. I'm really impressed with that, and I haven't seen him in a lot in like a long time. So I'm actually kind of excited to see him and just see him like talk more about this film. Um, let's see. Cassandra just came from at Sistapam Livestream. I'm not familiar with Sistapam. I've heard of Sistapam, but I don't think that I know her, that I've seen any actual thing. But thank you for joining the stream as well. King of all horror again tonight. Thank you very much. Do you fear a Ghostface copycat in real life? I mean, we've had stuff. I mean, there's I forget the case itself, but apparently it was inspired by Scream. I think like the way that I look at it, I think like the idea that like the violence in cinema is like recreated in real life. I don't think that in those cases it's the movies are at fault here. It's a much deeper conversation. So I just in terms of that, it's like you can't like it takes a person and like just like their brain and their mental stability to commit a sort of crime like that. And they might use a movie, very much such as like Billy and Stu, to influence like what they do or how they do it. But I mean, in terms of like the movie itself, I don't. Yeah, it is really like a very complicated matter. But I know that there's been something. I think it was like in the early 2000s. That people were saying were like the Scream murders or something like that. Critical Overlord, hello, Zach going live. It's lit. Thank you for joining. Let's see, where are we? Joaquin Violi, Gainesville Ripper. That happened before Scream, and I don't know if this is true or not, but like Kevin Williamson was saying that it was like not directly inspired by it, but more so like as he was writing Scream, he had like heard about these things, and it was sort of, I guess, gave him fuel to write the script. Excuse me while I take another sip here. Marty McFly, 88. Mickey is my favorite Ghostface. Mine too. For many reasons. Love Mickey though. LSN edits. Will any of the main four returning characters die like Mindy, Chad, Sydney, and Gale? Oh, absolutely. I can't see. I mean, like, if Scream 6 played it safe, the way that it did, like, there's definitely going to be casualties. I'm expecting maybe at least two. I don't think Sydney will die. Maybe just one. I'm not sure. If here's the thing, just as per my theory earlier about Gale, if she is somehow involved, I don't think that she will die. I think that she'll like go to prison, and she would be, I guess, the first Ghostface that would survive. I don't think that I don't think that she would be Ghostface. I don't think that she would ever be in the costume, but she would definitely have an accomplice do all of that. But again, it's such a wild theory. I can't see them doing it, but at the same time, I can see Kevin Williamson like wanting to do something so bombastic for this chapter. Excuse me. Dance Century, Chad is the new Dewey. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I always loved, like, the prospect of Gale and Chad teaming up in a way. I just wish that it had happened more organically, because that's the issue that I have with like these newer movies, is that like from 5 to 6 and now 6 to 7, you have like suddenly this relationship between Chad and Tara, who had no scenes together, no dialogue together, no real shared history outside of like what was told to us as them in a friend group. And it's just sort of like hoisted upon us. And now in 7, you know, even though they shared a scene when they were all at the shrine, we're now seeing that like Chad and Mindy are like in cahoots with Gale and whatever she's doing with her show. Chad and Mindy's being here in the scenario already feels very forced. So I think that it's going to be, you know, it's going to require a lot of suspension of disbelief to get around that aspect of it. Adrian Phillips, thank you for the $2. What kind of tone do you want? Throw in a bone. Like, what kind of tone? I mean, the regular, like, Screams 1 to 3. I mean, mostly Screams 1 to 2. That kind of tone. 3 was a little bit too goofy and comedic, but the thing is, like, in the more serious subject matter, like anything to do with Sydney, was almost like too maudlin. So it kind of, in a way, it like balances itself out, but it's still a bit of a jarring switch up as it sort of vacillates between different scenes. 4 definitely felt a little bit too goofy with how it was, and then 5 and 6, I feel like they just got like overly satirical. So I would love a tone that is more reflective of the first 2 movies. King of All Horror, thank you again. Thoughts on minority character as Ghostface? Yes, absolutely. Please, you know, like, equal opportunity. Get everyone, and everyone should have a chance to be the killer. Like, it's, if they would prevent it because they think it's like problematic or whatever, like, that is bullshit. Like, let them have their day, you know. So yes, please, like, let them be gay, let them be a person of color. They should all get that chance. Everyone needs that opportunity. It cannot just be the same white you know, whatever, over and over again. And you know that's the thing. It's like studios are like, well, we can't do this because it'll like get backlash, and I guarantee you that it will not. Chin Up, thank you for the $10. There is a production theory / rumor for 7 early on that there was a unmentioned kid brother upstairs in Scream 1 the whole time when Casey Becker was being murdered. The Gale will uncover thoughts. Yeah, no, because why would she not like be calling to the child upstairs and being like, we have to go or whatever? And when the parents come home, wouldn't the first thing they do is run and check on the kid brother or sister? So no, I don't buy that at all. Jarrell for Nalazea. I'm so sorry. Um, and now I've lost it. Okay, I want to comment that in Scream 6, instead of having Richie's family, what I think should be explored is Amber's family or background, since her family owns the Stu house. I don't know. I mean, Scream 6 has come and gone already. But I do want to say of Scream 5 that I think it was a huge missed opportunity that they had to not incorporate the character of Vince more into the story, because he would have been a great red herring. And it only makes sense that, if Amber and Richie are framing Sam, that they should be framing Vince as well. Like, frame both of them as like the descendants of Billy and Stu. And Amber never had to live in Stu's house. That, like, Vince could have lived in Stu's house. That is his family's house. And he could have been the one throwing the party at the end. And, he could have been Amber's ex or whatever. And that's, how they all ended up there. Like, there was so many things in like the writing for 5 that could have just been slightly tweaked that would have vastly improved that story. What are we here? Handy Randy, thank you for the 199. Was Roman's voice changer too out there and dumb? I think that, and I'm guilty of, having this opinion on it. I think at the time, and for the longest time thereafter, I was not very hot on Scream 3 and specifically the voice changer, because it did seem very unrealistic. But in hindsight, especially like now in this day and age, like a technology like that does feel very much so like it is a real thing. And even just like in terms of the nuance of what that device could do, like it created so many opportunities for Roman to gaslight the characters and to mistrusting one another and thinking that he's someone else. And I do miss that we didn't get as much Roger L. Jackson as the voice, but I do think that if Scream 3 didn't if the Scream universe didn't exist so much within our own universe, I think that they could have invented any rules that they wanted, and a device like this could have absolutely existed. But I think just because the Scream universe is so intrinsically linked to real life that it's kind of hard to watch a movie and then question, like, why is a device like that in there? It doesn't make any sense. Vinku, with AI on the rise, you can mimic people's voices now. Yeah, that was actually for Scream 6's marketing, they did that. There was like a thing where you could do your voice, and it was like a Ghostface thing. It was a tie-in, like the very same way that now they're doing it to like put yourself in the video where you're in the wall. And I just wanted to say on that too, because I just see a lot of people kind of like, it's very easy to just take like a anti-AI stance about everything, and this is a bigger conversation, because there's absolutely things that are unethical when it comes to AI. But in terms of like what Scream is doing marketing wise, this is actually a really good thing, because what it is doing is it is allowing for the studio to firstly save millions of dollars on marketing. So instead of paying advertisers like millions of dollars for these things, they're taking that money and they're saving it and they're putting it back into movies. They're putting it back into the ability to produce more movies and distribute more movies, and movies that are like, would otherwise not get made because of like the financial risk of not being able to promote it, because it costs too much to promote movies nowadays. So this kind of viral marketing, like they did with Scream 6, and now they're doing with Scream 7, is that it is algorithmically targeting 100% of the Scream fan base, people who are interested in this movie and want to see it. Whereas otherwise, when you're just launching a general marketing campaign, you're spending millions and millions of dollars to maybe like target 50% of audiences where not all of those, maybe only like 15% are interested in seeing Scream. So you're spending more money to get to people who are just like, oh, I'm not interested in this, but you've spent money on making them see it. So in a way, it's like this is actually probably the future of advertising, because it is ensuring that, you know, the money that studios have goes to the proper place. We're able to make better movies, and more people are aware of the things they want. Like Scream 7 is not a 4-quadrant film. You can't market that to everyone and, you know, like be upset that, like, when only so many people show up and you've lost all this money. And that's kind of what's happening. Like that's what's going on with like the Marvel movies. They're not making as much money and things like that. So because of streaming, because of like where we've come in the last 5 or 6 years, this is just the industry adapting to what they need to do better. So, you know, I've seen a lot of people very upset about this thing online. I encourage you to think outside the box, do a little bit more research and understand it, rather than just sort of like repeating the same talking points or just like, you know, whatever. Because there's a lot of good that comes from it. But again, it's a bigger conversation that people need to be having. And it's actually good for us to have AI in the public, because if there is no market for it, then what happens is that it'll be scooped up by the private sector, who don't have to, you know, tech billionaires who don't have to reveal anything about what they're doing with it. And we do not want AI to be in those people's hands. That is the worst thing that could happen. So us having control over it is actually a good thing. Please look into this. Do more research. That's all I'm going to say about that. Haunted Home Video. I'm so glad Kevin Williamson has a writing credit for Scream 7. One of my main gripes with Scream 5, Scream 6 is definitely the subpar writing. Yes, I could not agree anymore with that. That is like the I think that like the biggest thing for me is always like the mystery of it, and it just never felt like we were missing so much. Like in the first 4 movies, like Gale alone, just in terms of like wanting to investigate it. Like she, you know, to be fair, Gale never really solved any of the murders, but she made an attempt to. She was an active character in trying to figure this out. So with what they had kind of done in 6, where she just shows up and she's like, oh, I found this warehouse, you're going to want to check it out. It felt like we were being robbed of the action of investigating. It was just like things were just happening to these characters. And then at the end, the masks came off, and it never felt like anyone was being smart. Like they were always just like making the same mistakes over and over again. And, you know, that's what I love about Sydney, is that she learns from her past. She, you know, is able to be smarter and stronger because of the things that happened to her. So it was really disappointing, because I do really like Sam as a character. And I think that like what she brought in 5 of just sort of being completely untethered when she, you know, goes ahead and just like murders Richie and all that, that this is a character that I think would kind of at least know like she's been betrayed by someone who she thought she was close to, that she would be smarter about like who she trusts and whatnot. So, you know, when you get to the end of the movie and because this random cop that they just met, who's like kind of weird and whatever the situation was with Quinn and all that, because he says that Kirby is suspicious, that they would automatically just be like, we know you're the killer. And then like that only leaves Mindy. It must be Mindy under the mask. Like I would love to like have an extra scene written of like Mindy afterwards, finding out that Sam thought for a second that she was the killer. Like, that is just, it's insulting. It's just like you're taking a character and making them stupid for no reason. So we need better writing, better characters making smarter decisions, being smarter, adapting to the experiences that they've had, and making them more active participants rather than just like having the movie happen to them. Critical Overlord, you'll like Sam more than Tatum. Well, I mean, I guess that remains to be seen. Meme Fa, do you like any of the new characters in Scream? Do you think any of the new characters in Scream 7 will survive? I don't know. I think, I mean, like most of the movies other than 6, where everyone survived practically, I think that they know that there's going to have to be casualties. I think that there will be a lot more deaths. I think, there might be 4 or 5 survivors of this movie. That's my guess. Jorge, I think the AI marketing is a good tie-in since most likely AI will be tied into the plot of Scream 7. Ghostface always embraces new technology. And that's another thing. It's just like it's a very meta approach to what the material is. And Scream has always been meta in that way. So yeah, I just don't see the problem with it. I think that people are up in arms because they're quite frankly conditioned to hate on something because that is what everyone else thinks. There was one I saw, it went away. Darth Batmat, hey Zach, can't wait for 7. Where do you think, based on the promotional material, the film will fall in your rankings of the franchise? I've been asked this before. I don't know. I can't judge the movie based on that. I hope that I like it better than 5 and 6. I will be content if I like it better than 5 and 6, but there's no way I can know that. Paulo Balboa, Zach, could we have 2 female killers, Leslie Mocker and Christina Carpenter? I mean, not now. I think that the fact that Sam and Tara are not in this or have anything to do with it, that we're not going to see Christina Carpenter, which is a shame because I think that character could have, like imagine a trilogy where Sam and Tara did complete their arc. There could have, even if she wasn't the killer, just like I wanted to meet that character. I think that they really dropped the ball on anything to do with that. But Leslie Mocker, I have no idea. It's maybe we'll see Leslie Mocker in this movie. Who knows? Adrian Phillips, there actually were important deaths in Scream 6. The quality, tone, seriousness, and stakes. How could you? Yeah, I mean, there's Annika. I suppose Annika was really the only one. Because in terms of like the Samara weaving of the opening and all that, it felt so disconnected. And the Jason. So yeah, nobody cared about the therapist either. Vinku, Zach, I think an interesting message for the movie is for Leslie, kind of like a mind your own business situation. Leslie's tired of the Ghostface exploitation and the world we live in today is plausible. I mean, yeah, and if like for what reason is the killer burning down the Mocker house? Is that somehow tied to Leslie? Is she going to collect the insurance money on that? I guess we shall find out. Chin Up, thank you for the $5. I think Kevin Williamson paired with Guy Busick is strong writing for 7. I think the weaker writer was James Vanderbilt when 5 and 6 was written. Just saying. I mean, it's hard to say. I will say about Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt that I listened to the commentaries for 5 and 6, which they participated on along with Radio Silence, and the way that they described their process of writing it was sort of like they each went off and they would write a scene or something, and the other one would write a scene, and then they would come together and compare notes, and then they discovered that they had the same ideas. And that to me feels like why do you have two of them. If they're both having the same ideas, it feels superfluous to be paying a second writer for this, or it could just be one who's making more money here. I think when two writers, because I write with Eric, and why that works so well is because we don't always agree on each other. In fact, we disagree all the time. And what's great about that is that through those disagreements, we end up finding a third option, which turns out to be better than either one of our original options. So, and we always write together. We don't go off and write separate. So I don't like that idea of just like the way that Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt were doing it. I don't want to speak to their careers or their skill level or talent, but just the way that they wrote the movie, because it just did not seem productive to the script. Because if it was a thing, like let's just say that Guy Busick had the same mindset that I did. It's just like, well, why is Amber living in Stu's house and not Vince, who we've already decided to have this character of Vince, who is Stu's nephew? Things like that. And then that would open up more ideas that would lead to better things. So, two writers that are having the same ideas just feels kind of wasteful to me. Oofy the Troll. Am I saying that right? Thank you for the $4.99. If Stu is alive, it would be funny if he saw H2O and waited for Sid to have a daughter who was the same age to have a Michael Myers-like return. So Stu, 2 years after the Woodsboro massacre is in prison, and they bring in a VHS of H2O. Okay. I always felt that like Scream 3 was more in step with H2O, just in terms of like Sydney being in hiding. It does not feel like Sydney is in hiding here. Like, obviously she's not. She's doing news interviews. She's going by her real name, or now she's Sydney Evans. So, yeah, I don't think that this will really mirror H2O in any way. And then the fact that, like Roman is the brother character and, like Stu is not. Guys, give me 1 second. I have to pee real bad. I'm so sorry. I was going to explode if I didn't get that out. Let me just double check here. Okay, here we go. Perry Moberg, thank you for the $2. Are you nervous about Scream 7? I am, for sure. No, I'm not nervous. I'm just, the way that I'm looking at it is that, like, expectations are very low. But obviously, like, I hope for the best. It's just like I'm expecting. I won't even say the worst, but I'm not getting my hopes up in a way that I am going to be disappointed. But like, I just really go in with no expectations. That's where I'm at. Like I said earlier, like I am completely satisfied with the original trilogy. Everything thereafter is just sort of an accoutrement to the franchise. So, whatever it is. I will say that I am disappointed in the way that the Sam Tara trilogy turned out. And this is beyond Melissa Barrera, and we don't have to get into that. This is more so just, again, with the writing, because I feel that Scream 6 really had an opportunity to extend whatever they were doing in a way that wasn't repetitive, and they just sort of like hit the same beats. But I think that, like, had they had the runway, or just like exercised the runway in a way that actually was meaningful to go off in a direction for that within Scream 6, then Scream 7, had it been Sam and Tara, would have been a really fun final chapter to that trilogy. So that I'm more disappointed with that. But the things that I'm very excited for are, I mean, firstly, Nev Campbell. I think that like she's gonna kill it. Like I can already tell, like her performance is gonna be fantastic. So that's really the highlight for me. I had the pleasure of meeting her almost 2 years back now, and she's such a lovely person. And obviously, I'm such a huge fan. I don't get starstruck very often, but I was with her, and she's just so appreciative of the fans. I think she just really loves the character and the material. And the other aspect that I'm really excited for is Marco Beltrami coming out, like back to score the film, because he hasn't scored it since Scream 4. Didn't love the music in Scream 4. I think like 1 to 3 are really like the sweet spot there. But from what I've heard of the new movie, it sounds phenomenal. And I mean, Brian Tyler, for what he did in 5 and 6, was its own thing. I think that there are aspects to it that I really loved, but it didn't feel like Scream. So those are the two things that I'm very excited for. We had another Hypnosil Addict. Thank you for the $5. Do you think Scream 7 could secretly be a Gale-centric movie? It turns out Ghostface and the motive is tied to her instead of Sydney. If you're just joining, I had my theory before that just because there's the line that Ghostface says to Sydney on the phone, just being like, your daughter's the same age as you were when this all started, is being the exact same thing that Gale says to Sydney in the interview. It kind of gave me pause. It made me think, like, is Gale complicit? Like, is she somehow behind this? Which, it could very well. I think that Gale might play a very integral role within this movie. We'll see. I want to say this too, because the marketing has been, a little slippery and weird comparative to 5 and 6. I thought that the marketing for 6 was phenomenal. I think they did a really great job hooking in the audience, really selling sort of like this New York City aspect of everything. The downside for that was that the movie just did not feel New York at all. Like they really did not capitalize on any of that. So it was almost like misleading, but they did such an amazing job of marketing the movie. And here it's just sort of like our teaser trailer was the full trailer. It felt like there were things that were missing. We haven't really, we've since like gotten a lot more posters, and I want to get to that in a bit here. But yeah, it just felt like they were doing less, but that kind of makes sense with where the industry is at, because this was like 3 years ago, and now we're at a point where studios are losing so much money from the marketing side of things that it makes sense as to why it's a little bit lighter, and maybe they are trying to hone in more so on the intended target audience. But one thing that I really appreciate about this marketing for Scream 7, even though that, like, they've been a little spoilery, I mean a lot spoilery, but I have no idea what this movie is about beyond like the daughter and all that. Like they've done a really good job keeping the context of what is happening, or like what the through line or the theme is, away from the trailers. So that I appreciate, and that is actually leaving Scream 7 as more of a blank canvas, and why I hopeful that going to the movie and seeing it for the first time will yield a more positive experience than what myself and a lot of people had for 6, because it just felt like that it was so far removed from all the marketing that had occurred prior to that. And like the whole like subway sequence that they did for the teaser trailer was remarkable. Like I was really amped up, and that turned out to be like probably my favorite sequence of Scream 6. So there really wasn't a whole lot of New York to it, but yeah. Also, I want to get a poll in here at some point. I just don't know what to ask. I'm waiting for some inspiration. Evan, the movie guy, Scream 7 doesn't need much marketing. It's a big enough IP that they can keep marketing costs down and still get people to show up. I mean, yes and no. I think that was kind of the sentiment with Scream 4. Now, granted, Scream 4 was separated by 11 years of no Scream movies, whereas now there's been more of a momentum, more of a runway leading up to Scream 7, that it definitely would not be the same scenario. But I think like the marketing is there. I think that they're just being smarter about it. They're just being more tactful and strategic. So, whether or not that pays off, we will find out in 3 weeks here, or even sooner when pre-sale tickets numbers start to show up. MB 1865 Zach, also on January 21st, 2026, have a brand new young cast member, Kyle Winters. He was on set 1.5 weeks, and he's with a cast behind the scenes. He is playing Aaron. First time hearing of it, but the helpful information. I mean, he might just be like a random background character kid at the school. Astro, whoa! I think Mindy or Chad is gonna sacrifice themselves for Chloe in her attack scene, and then she ends up being a Ghostface. Maybe so. I mean, I think that my prediction video, I had said how that there was going to be like all of her friends and her boyfriend were going to be Ghostfaces, of like what Kevin Williamson's original plan was for Scream 3, of just sort of like the fake out kills and then revealing multiple Ghostfaces at the end. So that could be it. King of all horror, thank you again. Thoughts on Mark being the killer? No, because like I feel like aside the fact that it is kind of ludicrous that he would be married to Sydney for however long he's been married to her. Like they have a 17-year-old, so like at least 17 years. Like he would wait this long. That feels a bit much, even for a Ghostface killer. But also it undermines Sydney. It's just like the man that you've been living with, that you had 3 kids with, is a killer, and you couldn't have figured that out at any point. So no, I would hate that. I would hate for them to do that to Sydney. So please no, I don't think it would happen anyway. But also, what would she have not been married in Scream 4 and already have a 2-year-old child at the time of that movie? I mean, it's not like they said that she wasn't married or she didn't have kids, but it also never came up. So it's one of those things that feels strange. Like the fact that Judy would have already had a son, Wes, during the events of Scream 4, but we don't find out about him until later. I guess it wasn't relevant to bring up in the movie. Rick W., that makes me feel a tad better than maybe they're really planning on moving on, but we've heard that before. I don't know the context to that. LSN edits. Could we see Mark from Scream 3 come back for Scream 7? I think not. I mean, I think that's pretty much been laid out there that Patrick Dempsey will not be in the movie. Obviously, he was supposed to be Mark, but, it didn't turn out that way. Victor Suarez music. I think this movie is supposed to be a few years in the future. I don't know about that. I mean, I'm pretty sure in the trailer somewhere it was said that this is 30 years later, so it would be 2026. So that would negate that theory, but I guess we shall see. Okay, I wanted to talk about the posters a little bit. I just go through. I have them on here. I'm gonna pop it up. What do we think of this? Actually, yeah, I'm gonna put a poll in here about this. because I've got some opinions on this one. Do we like the cast poster? I hate this so much. Okay, the I get that there's like the through line of 5, 6, and 7 of just sort of having this same motif. Um, the one for 5 is fine for what it is. It's just sort of like at least it had like the color scheme that matched a little bit better. I hated the one for 6. This is an improvement over the one that they did for 6, with all the negative space and like the tattered rope thing and everyone's like position with the buildings. Really not liking this one though because of the head placement. Like it just, at least with the one for 5, like you had the big heads of Gale, Sydney, and Dewey in the back, and then all of the other people were in front, a little bit smaller. But this just feels messy. It's just like Gale is sort of like, she's in front of Sydney and Gale, but she's behind everyone else, but she's bigger than them, but she's smaller than Sydney and Gale. I don't like this fire motif. It makes me think of, like, it makes it look like this is about a ragtag team of forest firefighters. You know, this is a movie where they're battling wildfires in California. Not into it. It's like Backdraft 7 rather than Scream 7. So I'm really not too into it. Why isn't it not showing me the poll results? Okay, yeah. So far, 64% no. It's too warm. Like the colors, they don't feel like Scream. Like I really love the teaser posters that they did for 5 and 6. I thought those were great. Like the one for 5 that's kind of got that like blue greenish hue and just sort of like the mask in, not entirely in profile, but the knife. It's very reminiscent of the Halloween 6 Curse of Michael Myers poster. So I really like that. I love the simplicity of it. I love the one for 6 of the Ghostface mask behind the subway door. I thought that was really good. The one that they did for this one, which I don't have on here. Actually, I guess it's the background for this live stream, but it's just like it feels like just one of those basic character posters. But I just don't like the fire motif, like all these embers floating around. So yeah, I wasn't crazy about it, but I guess we're at 55%. So, you know, like half of us really love it, half of us don't. Got a super chat here. There we go. Thank you to Distracted Reality for the $10. Maybe a descendant from a previous victim is the killer. Angelina's kid, Roman, was 29, could have had a few kids. I mean, who knows? I mean, the killers always seem to be teenagers at this point, or they're like the adults or the parents. But it's highly possible that this killer was born after the year 2000. We shall see. But you know, maybe they are older again. And you know, there's going to be 2. But yeah, go check out my predictions video after this. You know, because I had multiple theories of who it could be, but yeah. Oh, we are like right at 50-50 here for this poster. Okay, I underestimated people's like of this poster. I guess I hate it. It doesn't feel like Scream to me, but I respect the fact that you know, people are into it. The Rhapsodist, Scream 8 should have a vigilante Ghostface who is targeting a cult of Ghostfaces and not being revealed in the end. Give Sydney and whoever else survives a break. I mean, personally, I like all the Scream movies to at least like be able to tie up their plot in a nice little bow. I'm not really into the idea of like cliffhangers. Rick W. I think. Thank you for the 9.99. I think all killers should be adults. Would be pretty dark. Yeah, I mean it's just very Scream too. Because Mickey's like a grown up. He's like a senior college student. King of all horror. Thank you for the $2. Thoughts on there being a good ghost face? I mean, well, isn't like Sam technically the good ghost face? Like she had her unmasking, she murdered in the ghost face robe, all that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I have my feelings on that too. So no, I don't think there should be a good ghost face. Okay, I've got other posters here. Let me end this poll, and where more people like it than they don't. Damn, I'm in the minority on that one. Um, okay, so then we have this one, which is more of like like an homage to the classic poster. I'm gonna put a poll for this one too, and see what people people think. Do we like the classic inspired poster? Um, I, I like it better than the cast poster, but there's something about it. It might be the font, like the logo, just sort of being this like metallic shiny thing, and the seven being in front and like blocking the M that I'm not crazy about, or sort of the letters being smaller and more spread out. But the knife too, like when I think of the original, I think of just like the shocked face. That probably would have been more in line for what this could have been. But I don't know. I think it's funny. I was looking at it, and because like they've made her eyes blue, and Nev Campbell has brown eyes, not blue. But then I was looking at like Drew Barrymore for the first one because that's her face, and she I guess has more of like green or hazel eyes. So technically hers aren't blue either. So I guess within the realm of what they were doing with that, then it makes sense here. But they did for Scream 2 because it was her face on there, and I'm pretty sure that her eyes were brown on that. I could be mistaken though, because it was her and Jada Pinkett. I'd have to look at it again because it's been a while, but it seems like people have taken to this one much more positively. So that is totally fair. Distracted reality. Thank you for the $10. I'm sorry, but I always wondered if Sydney had a secret kid with Derek that was out for revenge. I really think Kevin wants us to feel the burn with this movie. With Derek, like her college sweetheart. But when would that have happened? And like she had the kid after, and she gave him up. Um, and why would he be so angry about that? But I mean, I guess I hear what you're saying as sort of like a full circle thing with the way that Roman, I guess, approached uh, Maureen the same way here. Oh, got a thumbs down. Hey, if you haven't yet, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. I don't know if it does anything, but it's we're at 111 right now. I think that's always pretty cool. Get that up. Get that number up higher. Are we here? Yeah. Okay. Well, Yeah. This poster, I feel like just like even like the cast ones where like they had everyone in the V formation or whatever, just wearing black with the black background, like that just always felt so much more emblematic of Scream than like these newer ones. I really love the Scream 4, the profile, the knife blade. I think that was really creative. But it's like always the original is going to be the best one. Uh, let's see here. Mimfa, how would you feel if Sydney was killed off and her daughter would become the new final girl? No, I just like I would hate if they killed Sydney at this point, and I don't really know about the daughter. Like the thing with the daughter is this is like now the third time that they've sort of set up this passing of the torch. So it might just feel a bit, kind of like we've done this before. We're gonna try a third time with this new character. I Who knows? Like we might really like her. She might not land as well, but I don't know. I know that they're gonna keep making Scream movies, so this probably won't be the last one. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're at 85% like this poster. Let's. I have like other ones here. There's four that I brought. There's this one. This one was just released today. I want to ask you guys what you think of this. So we had 85%. We're into the classic face poster. I'm gonna call this the drippy mask poster. The drippy. It's kind of giving me like a House of Wax vibe, which I love. I love House of Wax. Does anyone else love House of Wax? House of Wax is such a fun movie. I don't think like it's the fire motif, but I love that like at least since there's the flame, it's like melting the mask. I think it's pretty cool. The more I look at it, the more I do really like it. It has a very 80s vibe to it, which I appreciate. So actually, I do really like this one. This might actually be my favorite poster that they've put out for the movie. For Cinemark XD. What is XD? We don't have Cinemark here in Canada. But they do have this thing called Screen X, which I guess is, probably you have in the States as well, or wherever you're watching this from. And I saw Sinners, and it was a Screen X situation. And I chose it because it was like the most, like the closest available screen time. And it ruined the fucking movie for me. It's like the side projection shit, and it like because of it was so bright it would like take away from the main screen, like you couldn't see as well, and it wasn't consistent. It wasn't even throughout the whole movie. It's just like it was scattered, so it was very distracting. 0 out of 10 recommend. I don't know if this XD is the same sort of similar thing, but I know I'm seeing Scream 7 in IMAX. That's what I'm gonna do. 85% so far like this poster, so that's cool. I'm glad that there's more positivity for some of the artwork here. King of All Horror, thank you for the $2. Are you watching Scream 7 in IMAX? I just answered that. It's like, yeah, I'm going to. At least the first time. For like, if I go see, if I don't hate this movie, then I'm gonna go back and see it in theaters again. I don't know if I would go like IMAX every time. With Scream 6, I only saw it twice in the theater because I just was so turned off of it. But both times were like 3D. I hope this isn't in 3D. 3D is awful. Like this is not the kind of movie that it should be made for 3D. Most movies should not be 3D. But it made everything darker. It was just like harder to see. So, yeah, that might have colored my initial experience of Scream 6 as well. Valentino Tehran, love House of Wax. The cast is crazy. Thank you for the $2. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I prefer remakes over prequels mostly, but most remakes I find are just trash. Like, especially of that era, the mid 2000s. Not a fan of them. Like, everything was just so dark and gritty and grimy and like, it's just like devoid of color, completely desaturated, made to be like very cynical and not fun movies. And the Dark Castle movies, the Dark Castle remakes, so it'd be House of Wax, House on Haunted Hill, 13 Ghosts. We're always so vibrant and creative and fun, just visually like I relate them to like a carnival ride. So I always loved like House of Wax, especially. I mean, all three of those are just gems, but it was just sort of this diamond in the rough in like the middle of the 2000s amidst like these like really like dour and dire remakes. Also, like the Black Christmas remake, I kind of low key love. Not the 2019 one that came out 7 years ago now, or just like 6 years. But the one from 2006, I didn't love it at the time, but it's really grown on me because it's just like a fun, colorful movie. And most remakes weren't like that. So I'm glad that there's love for House of Wax and this House of Wax Ghostface mask, waxy mask dripping shit that they got going on here. Thank you to Don't Kill Me, Mr. Ghostface, 1993 for the $5. Why do you think they edited the knife in Chad? Edited the knife in Chad. What does that mean? Did they edit something? Was there a let me can I reply directly? Yes, I can reply directly. More context, please. Yeah, and then I'll be happy to. Oh, Sister Pam. Hello. Nice. Yeah, I noticed Zach was live as I was ending my stream and let everyone know. Thank you, Sister Pam. Nice to meet you. Like I've heard a lot about you for a while now, and someone had said that they had just come over from your live streams. So happy to have you. Thank you for directing people over here. Really appreciate it. The Rhapsodist. Ooh, Black Xmas is campy fun. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just trying to think of like other remake. The Friday the 13th remake, which is not really a remake per se. Like it's a remake. It's a sequel to a remake, is what it is technically. It's like there's a remake never existed. It is the sequel to that, and it's not exactly like fun or vibrant or colorful, but I kind of liked it a little bit more than most of the stuff that was coming out. Let's see. Perry Moberg, do you think Oz Perkins would make a good Scream movie? No, I don't think that he would. Honestly, I'm not a fan of Oz Perkins movies. I really did not like Longlegs. I liked The Monkey even less. I just I don't want to say that these are bad movies. They're just not really in my wheelhouse. So I don't enjoy them. I did not see the Keeper, the most recent one. So yeah, I don't think that whatever Oz Perkins would make, I don't think would be to my liking of what a Scream movie would be. Trying to. Okay, I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss Don't Kill Me, Mr. Ghostface's question. Anyway, the knife in chat. Can someone give me more context if you know? Let me see if I can scroll up here. Okay, I did not miss anything yet. Oh, here's don't. Thank you again. Don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. In one trailer, there's no knife. Then in TV spots, there's a knife in him. I didn't know that. No, I don't. I look. I cannot speak to anything in the trailers. Like I've watched the trailers. I have not like gone over them with a fine tooth comb. Um, I haven't really wanted to. I haven't really like felt the need to. So I'm not cognizant of like little details like that. Just like the few things that I've pointed out. So I have no idea. I don't know what could be misleading and what couldn't be. But if we know anything about Chad, it's that he can take 1,000 knives to his body and it doesn't make a difference. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. Um, wow, that's crazy. But again, it's like the photo of like them sitting on the water fountain from the first movie. Like people were saying that that was like digitally altered or put in there. So who knows? King of All Horror, thank you. Thoughts on an actual super meta stab movie? Absolutely not. Like I feel like we finally moved away from the Stab franchise. Stab was really hurting Scream. Um, it just they took it a little too far, and it doesn't make sense. The way that they've sort of romanticized the Stab franchise within the Scream franchise doesn't make sense to me. That it would turn out to be what it is. Like it was always supposed to be this schlocky movie that was it's not even a murder mystery. It's like everyone knows the story of the Woodsboro murders and Billy and Stu. So that like this thing would then like transform into this whole franchise of things based on Gale's books or whatever. Like it never made sense to me. And it was always supposed to be crappy. It's not the equivalent of Scream. So I feel like what the later movies kind of got wrong is that they kept going back and referencing the Stab movies rather than what the original Scream did, which was just reference the horror genre in general. And we missed out on so much. Like every opening scene is just a variation of the Casey Becker scene almost. Whereas like Scream 2 was one of the few that did it different. Um, did I put an end to that poll? Did that poll end? Um, I don't even know where to get it at it now. Jeez. I am not good at live streams. Just saying. I'm trying though. The other poster I had was this creepy duck one, which I wanted to put up here, which is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre homage, which is confusing to me because I mean I love it. I love the homage to it. I'm just confused because it says "Welcome to Woodsboro, where the past never dies," but we know Scream 7 is not taking place in Woodsboro. So I just wanted to like put that out there and see if is that maybe just sort of like part of the poster design, or does it have something to do with Scream 7? I mean, obviously the opening, at least like the Mocker House stuff, takes place in Woodsboro or on the outskirts of Woodsboro. Um, but you know, I always love a an homage to an old poster. I mean, like if you're familiar with the poster, like Macabre's poster, my movie with Eric Champney, we I guess like homaged, or was like kind of inspired by a movie called Enigma. Matthew Terrian did the artwork. Actually, I can put it up here just in a few minutes. Davy B. Jones, I love that poster. Yeah, like just like a really fun nod to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Dance Century. Hey Zach, do you think Sydney could have saved Cotton from Ghostface in Scream 3? No, I don't think. I mean, Sydney was like in hiding, and I don't think that like her and Cotton were not close in any way. She didn't have his number on speed dial, so I don't think it didn't make sense that he would know her number or know where she is anyway. So yeah, I think Cotton sealed his fate when he, kind of became a whore for Hollywood, and then yeah, was in starring in the new Stab. Oofy the Troll. I've heard people say the TCM reference is that the killers are wearing the mask of the previous dead killers, so to speak, like Leatherface. They're wearing the faces of the past killers. How does that work? That is I don't know how that works for Scream. I don't know what I think of that. Thank you, Sarah Campbell. Appreciate you. Let's see. Memefa. What do you think the killer's motive will be this time around? The killer's motive, that's the thing that I always feel like you can always guess who the killer is going to be. You know, like when we get the cast poster here, let's just put the cast poster back up here. Um, Damn it. The killer is obviously going to be one or more of these people. So like in our minds, we've done the reveal. We've made multiple scenarios and we've seen, you know, McKenna Grace take off the mask, or Anna Camp, or the boyfriend character, or this guy in the back here, that's underneath Chad. So I feel like it's never the who the killer is that's the surprise. It's the why. It's the motivation, and I don't know what it could be this time around. Like I said, if it was like a thing where, like, if Gale is complicit, can't speak tonight, then it might have something to do with like Dewey, or just sort of like the trauma that she endured through all of that, and then like almost dying in Scream Six. You know, we'll have to see, but I don't know. I'm not gonna presume to know what it was. I, you know, made a guess of as to what the motive could have been in Scream Six, and you know, like, not that I let myself down because it didn't turn out to be that motive, but it was just like, personally, I felt that that was a more interesting motive than what we ended up getting, which was the same motive as like the killer in Scream 2. So as whatever it is, I just hope that it's fresh and original. It's something that we haven't seen before. Not like a relative situation, anything like just something that actually, you know, it doesn't even have to be topical, but just something that is innovative and is going to get me to lean in and be like, oh, okay, like I would have never guessed that. I want to be surprised by the motive. Don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. Thank you again. How do you feel about the new Ghostface outfit from the trailers? Is there a difference? I'm really bad at like picking up on the nuances of the different robes and the mask and all that. I would fail that test if you put like different masks in front of me and asked me what the difference was. For like 90% of them, I would not know. I would not know to be like, that was in that movie and so on. I know the KNB mask from the first movie that we see during like the Casey running down the side of the house, and then that's what Principal Himbry is wearing. But like everything else, I would not know. I would be a horrible Scream fan when it came to mask trivia, unfortunately. I know a lot more about the Michael Myers mask, but yeah, sadly, not the ghost face. Let me get this poster off. Maybe can I do a Q&A? Let's see, like, who do you think is the killer? Interested to hear the thoughts on that. Dance Century, I hope they have red right hand in Scream 7. I think they do. I heard that they would. Emerald, someone said that the official poster looks like a local fight department recruitment ad, or like a fire department. Yeah, that's what we were saying. It's just like they're a team of firefighters fighting this wildfire. It's not Scream. It's not doing what it is. But 50% of you liked it. 53% to be exact. So you know, It's working. Zombie Ethan Landry. Stu. I think it'll probably be. Let's see. Memfa, did you hear that Sam was originally supposed to be the killer in Scream 7, but it was scrapped after she was fired? I mean, I heard rumblings of like Sam being the killer. And I mean, I think that that's definitely, I know people were like not a fan of that idea, but I think if it was done right, it could have worked. Not necessarily in like the way that we've seen the killers before, but I think with Sam, something that's very interesting about that character is that she is, you know, obviously very secretive, very protective of, you know, her past and things like that. And, you know, just keeping in line with sort of like the Scream lore of the way that Maureen Prescott disappeared from Woodsboro for an extended period of time that we find out in Scream 3, we do know that Sam disappeared from Woodsboro for 5 years until she came back in Scream 2. And I think that what would actually be very interesting is we found out that in that time, like something happened. Who knows what she did? Maybe she tracked down her father, like not Billy Loomis, but the other guy, and murdered him because he wanted nothing to do with her. So maybe it was just more of like a crime of passion or something like that, or just like of the abandonment. Would it be more so abandonment than passion, I guess? But you know, just there's something sketchy in her past that she covered up, and it gets to a point where it's like someone knows about that, and so rather than her killing people out of like revenge or to try to start something, like she would be killing people to hide her secret, because I can see a scenario where that character might do something. I think that would be actually an interesting turn if she were to be the killer. Let's see. Who do we think is the killer? Stu and Leslie Macher. They've hidden her character so much from the trailers. I'm assuming that's Anna Camp's character. I think the Billy boyfriend character is too predictable. We've seen that like twice. Remember Richie in Scream 5? Probably the neighbor and one of the teens. You can only hear that theory so many times before you start believing in it. Nice callback. Yeah. KG, will you try and get Eddie back for the Scream 7 review on the Cherry Picker? That's up to him. I mean, Eddie left. He was doing 2 podcasts, mine and another one, and I you know, he decided that he wanted to take a break from it. So, you know, it's not really for me to say, but you know, he's always welcome back. Anna Camp is one of the killers. See, the thing is that like if Anna Camp is the killer, then we know that the her son, the Asa German character would also be the killer, because like how would the mother be the killer and not the son? One theory could possibly be that maybe he's not her son, and it's almost like a Scream 2 situation where like in the way that Mrs. Loomis like hired Mickey essentially to, and like, you know, enrolled him in the college, that the teenage son of hers is not actually her son, and it was like a serial killer that she found and hired him to pose as her son living in the suburbs next door to Sydney, which I think would be a cool little twist, or just like a kind of like a callback to that idea. Joaquin Violi, I do not believe they said Sam was the killer, rather that Billy Loomis would slowly corrupt her over the 3 films. I mean, he wasn't trying very hard with at least in 6, just the grab a weapon and just defend yourself. C. Edward, hey Craig, glad you can make it. I probably made it just in time for the end. I don't know, we've been going on for almost 2 hours now. Probably gonna close up shop soon, but there's quite a few of you here. You know, we're having a good time. I don't want to shut her down too soon. Emerald. Oh, what is Anna Camp's character name in Scream 7? I think it's Jessica. You know what? I had them. I saved on my phone. What were the names? Bowden. So Lucas is the son, and Jessica. Jessica and Lucas Bowden are the names of the characters. Chloe Parker, Ben Brown, Hannah Thurman, Mark Evans, Marco, just Marco, as the Ethan Embry character. Robbie Rivers, Robbie with a Y, is played by Mark Consuelos. George Willis as the Tim Simons character, and then the Michelle Randolph is Madison. Jimmy Tatro is Scott, and that tracks because I saw that there was new footage of the opening scene where she picks up the phone and she's like, "Scott, is that you?" or whatever. And then we know everyone else's name, so hopefully that helped. Jessica is such a bitchy name. Love it. Thank you, Silent Saturn. Is Jessica a bitchy name? I once heard that Christine is a bitchy name, but Christina isn't, because it's sort of like the way that when you pronounce it, it's just like your mouth, like "een," versus like "ah." Like it just sort of has this like upward spin on it, that it's just sort of makes it a little bit lighter. So the theory was that like if your name is Christine, you're a bitch, and if it's Christina, you're nice. Obviously, I don't believe that. If there's any Christines or Christinas watching, I did not mean to imply that, but it's always so interesting, like psychologically, what's in a name for a character. And honestly, I think that these names are kind of basic. But I mean, that's just me. I mean, like Mark Evans, like we already have a character named Mark with Mark Kincaid, and we already have a character named Evans with Maureen Evans. So it just feels like they're kind of reaching into this redundancy of just like, picking names that have already been chosen. Like, it was just like Marnie Cooper with Cece Cooper and all that. Like, there's so many names. Where's the Zacks? Why is there no Zack in a Scream movie yet? However, and I hate this, that Kirsch is actually like German translated to cherry or something like that. So I feel personally attacked by that. It's just the Kirsch family was a direct result. It was like they're trying to stick it to me, assuming that they knew who I was or it had some sort of connection to me. But yeah, technically the Kirsches are the Cherries. But Cherry is not like actually my real last name. It's Chereshny. So obviously I had to change it because I don't think that it had the same ring to it for YouTube. But just a little fun trivia for you there. Hey, Stephanie Starbright. Yeah, they need a Zach. They need a Stephanie. There's no Stephanie characters in the franchise. Like, why are they repeating names that we've already heard? Maybe Ethan's real name was Zach Kirsch. God, I hope not. Ethan sucks. Ethan is like the worst of the worst. And I feel bad for him because he deserved better. He deserved like a better family, a father who actually gave a shit. But it always bugged me that he's like, my name's not really Ethan Landry. And then it's just like, well, then what is it? Why did you even need to say that? Why was it important to the plan to present Quinn as being actually his daughter, but Ethan could not be the son? There's so much confusion, so many questions. took me like 2 hours to finish that. Richie is one of the most boring Ghostfaces. I don't agree with that. But to each their own. And sorry, that was Lucas Vastres. Thank you. L4V Multisanti. Joel back. The Gale cameraman. Where is he? Why is he not come back? We need to see him at some point for sure. Oh, here's the poll thing. Okay, I'm gonna end that. Amethyst Frost, lots of confusion, Halloween Resurrection. I love that line. It's so ridiculous. It's like, how do we justify this bullshit of ruining the ending to H2O to satisfy the this movie, to justify its existence, rather than to have this nurse say lots of confusion. Oh my gosh. Sister Pam, hearing Ethan sucks is music to my ears. Yeah. I think I mean, what did I rank them as? Like it's been so long. I think that I had Bailey, like Wayne Bailey, in last, and that's just more so because there's so much potential with him. But I don't think he's the worst. But that family, like that whole unit of just like the three of them, was definitely, they belong at the bottom of my ranking at least. I can't deal with them. So I really hope that we've got better Ghostface killers this time around. Chris Wildfire. Do you think after part 3 there should have been more sequels sooner than when part 4 came out? No, I think that the tides were shifting. Scream 3 came out at a really good time when it did, because that postmodern slasher wave really did kind of die out going into 2001. I think that, what was it? It was like Valentine. I love Valentine. But I don't, it just was not well received at the time. But that was sort of like one of the last on its way out. There was a movie called Soul Survivors, which is not really like a slasher type movie, but it was sort of marketed the same way. Eliza Dushku from Buffy was in it, and she wasn't even the main character, but the poster had the cast and the V formation. And I think that was one of the last ones that they tried to market as a Scream movie. And it just, at that point, it just really kind of was on the way out. That movie also came out right before 9/11. It was the weekend before. And I feel that 9/11 really changed the film industry, and that's why throughout the 2000s things got we had the Saw movies and we had the Hostel movies, and then all the gritty remakes, and that is an effect of just sort of where the sensibilities were at the time, where people wanted things that were more realistic and grittier and just made you feel like shit, because that's sort of where everyone was. And I just don't think that Scream would have survived throughout all of that. It would have just been seen as, what it was, just sort of behind its time at that point, and maybe overstaying its welcome. So, with Scream 4, I think that was really ahead of its time with where it's at. I know that Scream 4 has a lot of criticism for many things, and a lot of those things are justified, and some of them not so much. But I think that if something like Scream 4 came out, even 5 years after when it did, it probably would have done better. But I mean, there's so many factors as to why Scream 4 didn't do well. But in the interim from 3 to 4, I don't think that would have, a Scream movie would have survived. I think it would have just the fatigue really would have started to set in. We're at a place right now where these movies are going to be much more successful, and I think Halloween 2018 kind of launched the platform for that to happen. So yeah, that's kind of where I see that. I hope I didn't miss any super chats because this thing is blocking my screen, so I just want to make sure. So if I did, let me just scroll up. Because I just realized that. Um, how do I find these? Okay, here we go. Okay, yeah, the last one was the Ghostface outfits from the trailer. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't being a bad live stream host here. Haunted Home Video. Have you watched the new Scream 4 4K that's on streaming? No, I haven't. We just covered Scream 4 again on the Cherry Picker. So it's my podcast. There's a channel for it. If you're not familiar with the Cherry Picker, the links and all that are in like if you're on the YouTube here, just go. You can easily find it, or just look up the Cherry Picker. But yeah, we just recovered it. It's leading up to Scream 7. And I watched Scream 4, but I watched an extended cut of it. So it's essentially like all of the deleted scenes were edited back in to the movie. And that's, it's not in 4K, but that's my preferred way of watching it. I'd rather watch the version that Wes Craven, or at least like closer to the version of the film that Wes Craven wanted, which is just so much better. I find it just like there's so much more context that's added in, especially in terms of like the characters like Jill. And I know that whatever version comes out that's in 4K is not going to be that, which is unfortunate. But whenever they put it out on physical media, like the filter doesn't bother me. I've learned to accept it. I think that the filter is kind of emblematic of the way that the remakes looked at the time anyway. It's an ugly looking movie, but it's there. But what bothers me more is the way that the film was just sort of stripped down of all of those scenes. So much prefer, and actually much recommend, you watch Scream 4 in a way. It's actually, you can go on YouTube. This isn't the version I saw. The one that I saw was like edited much better, but there is one that's on YouTube. You can just go like Scream 4 extended cut and watch it there. I think it's a much better experience than what the theatrical version is. Valentino Turan, thank you for the $5. Even Lilo and Stitch was changed by 9/11. The final scene was originally a plane flying through buildings, was changed to a spacecraft flying in woods. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that like, and it went on for years. I think the one that was like stirred up the biggest controversy was they did the Carrie Diaries. It was like a CW version of Sex and the City, where it was like Carrie Bradshaw as a teenager, and she was like interning in New York. It's like the origins of the character, and they did like a promotional poster of it, and they removed. Well, they didn't remove it because like they didn't exist at the time, but like the Twin Towers were not put in place, even though in the year that this would have been like set in, which would have been in the 80s, they still would have been standing, but they chose not to. And they chose not to because it's like, well, we don't want to upset anyone. And this is like a bigger problem outside of that, but just like, wouldn't you be upsetting people more by erasing history? Because I think that is more egregious than to just like erase something because it holds a bad memory for people. Because it's just like that is part of history. That's part of world history, let alone like American history. So I think that's important, and even in like shows like that. But I know that like people were very sensitive. Probably not so much anymore, but just like with things like that, especially in the early 2000s. And that was a show that like that came out in the early 2010s, so like it was going for a while. But yeah, that's so much was changed. I always like the thing that I find the most interesting, and this is just because of the wonky timeline of the Friday the 13th movies, but technically, Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan takes place in the year 2002. and they go to New York, and you see the skyline, and it's the skyline as it existed in 1989, whenever that was filmed. By the way, I got on because I said on the podcast that I would rather watch Jason Takes Manhattan than Scream 6, and a lot of people disagreed with that, and that's fine. I don't think that Jason Takes Manhattan is a better movie, but I actually enjoy it more than Scream 6. I felt inclined to say that. They at least went to New York. It was one scene in Times Square, but they used it. Good night, Daniel. L4V Multisanti, do you still want to see the police actively involved in the investigation uncovering at least one ghost face? I think that, like, if the police character is like a more prominent character in the movie, such as the way that maybe like Mark Kincaid was in Scream 3, then yeah, absolutely. I think so. But if it's like, the way that in the first two movies where Sheriff Burke was just sort of like a very peripheral character, and Hartley in Scream 2 not really having a lot of involvement. I think that like this kind of goes back to like the 70s and the 80s of just sort of like Italian giallo subgenre, where the investigators were always kind of like just regular citizens. Maybe they like happened to see something and they launched into their own vigilante investigation. And the police were always kind of like sidelined characters. The detectives were there, but they never really were, doing anything. And then it wasn't until like more, I think, especially with like Dario Argento, like as you go into like the 90s and the 2000s, he started to shift that perspective and show more of these movies being framed from the perspective of the police investigators. And I always found it so boring because it's just like tedious. Like it feels more like a procedural than it does like an actual horror movie. So that's what I love about, Gale as a character, because she is not police. She's media. She's investigating this. And I mean, even if you look at Scream 4, and, different from the script, because I know that Gale and Dewey were more teamed up in that movie. But, in Scream 4, we never really see the movie from Dewey's perspective, in a sense that like, we're not seeing the police procedural aspect of it. We're more, at least for the first half of the movie, going in it through Gale's perspective, as this sort of like vigilante reporter, like investigative journalist. So I always find that that's more interesting because, I mean, you're not bound to, the law in terms of like how things need to be done and warrants and whatnot. And I just find like police, like, you get the police offices and all that. It's just such a uninspiring like setting. So yeah, I forgot what the original question was, but oh yes, will we see more police stuff? I hope not. I don't know what the situation is with, I guess, like Mark is the cop in the movie, but yeah, I think I hope that it's used as much as it should be, such as the way that it is in the first two Scream movies at least. Amethyst, he got it right in Deep Red where they were useless. Yeah, the cops were completely sidelined and useless in those movies. Valentino, Jason X, it's ridiculous, but I love it. I loved Jason X when it first came out in the theater, but it's a hard sit for me in this day and age. Adasolm, what do you think could be different about Scream 6? Scream 6 or Scream 7? What do you think could be different? I mean, if we're talking about Scream 6, I think that, oh my gosh, like you could watch that video diatribe I did about it. Definitely, I think that they needed more cause and effect. There is no causation throughout the movie. Like you can go from point A to point B at the end, and like any of the events that happen in betwixt could have been rearranged in a way. It's just sort of like we're going from this set piece to this set piece to this set piece, but nothing that really happens in any of them informs the characters or the decisions that are made going into the next one. It's just very random, which I don't think makes for a very it doesn't make for good storytelling. But if you're asking about Scream 7, I think, gosh, you're making me have to remember all these videos I did like months ago. But I think I had a whole thing. Chase scenes was one of them. That was a big thing. I didn't like Gale's chase scene in Scream 6. It felt very staged. I think that there was so much more that they could have done with it. They gave her like they made her make really stupid decisions. Like she locked herself in the room and then she left the room. If you're gonna go run out onto the patio, like at least like make us like afraid that she's gonna fall over the edge. Like have a struggle with Ghostface. There like there was a lot that they could have done, and it just felt like, this is a problem that I see in a lot of horror movies that come out now, or just like, even within the last 20 years, where chase scenes are just sort of like, I'm going to throw Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 under the bus because I'm not a huge fan of that movie. There are things about it that I like, but Jessica Biel's character, for the most part, it just feels like she's running from venue to venue. And it's just like her running through the woods. And it never feels like there's anything like transcendent about what they're doing with like the chase at all. It's just sort of like she's running. And that's all that the movie needs to do to satisfy a chase scene. Whereas you compare that to something like Sarah Michelle Gellar and I Know What You Did Last Summer, 1996. There's so many layers to that. She runs to the department store owned by her family and the door is locked and she's banging there. And her sister, who already like, we know they don't like each other, she's just kind of like, oh, what do you want now? She's like slowly going to open the door. She doesn't know that Helen is in danger. She doesn't care. She's like, oh shit, I forgot the keys, having to walk back. Like just adding little things like that just sort of like wind up the tension. You don't see that anymore. It's just like, I think that for most studios or filmmakers, the idea is like, well, as long as they're running, that will suffice. And it doesn't. So that is, part of the issue that I have with Scream 6, of just that scene. And even like, there really wasn't a chase scene in Scream 5. Just, people were running for maybe like 5 meters and then the killer caught up with them. But yeah, I always think of like some of the best chase scenes. My favorite chase scenes are the I Know What You Did Last Summer one. Gale in Scream 2 with like those soundboards, like just hiding behind them, and like the killer being right there. Very tense. I always love Laurie's chase scene in Halloween 2, where she's like goes down the basement and she's crawling through the window and trying to get into the elevator as he's slowly approaching. And then Mute Witness. The first 30 minutes of that movie are phenomenal, but it's just like this really extended chase scene. It doesn't start right at the beginning, but that whole sequence of events is very tense. So I definitely recommend that. But yeah, just like chase scenes nowadays, it just feels like they're going through the motions. I don't think that they understand what works in terms of like tension or what an audience needs. So yeah, I was not a fan of what they did with Gale's scene in Scream 6. Davy B. Jones 5 kind of had the Tara scene in the hospital, which isn't really a chase since she's in a wheelchair and going pretty slow, but I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah. I'm just gonna be negative here. We spent so much time in that bloody hospital in Scream 5. I was just so glad to be out of it when we finally did. The Rhapsodist, besides seeing TCM 03 at the cinema, it never really did anything for me. The original is a psychological nightmare, while the remake is just a generic slasher. I think that there are things like the cinematography is quite beautiful in TCM 03. I think that for what it is, like that, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is very much a grindhouse film, and I think that there's a polish to the remake that really takes that grittiness away. Like obviously the environments are like really dank and gross and like what they are, but there's something about them that just feels a little inauthentic. Whereas like the original movie, like it feels like that's the actual real environment that it's in. So I know that like TCM 03 is like a very well respected movie, and I think that in terms of like most of the remakes, it probably ranks a lot higher, at least for me. But it's still not one that I particularly care for all that much. Like if people are gonna, I'm never gonna hear the end of this, but if you like put all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies in front of me, I would probably watch 1, 2, 4, the Next Generation with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey. It is not a good movie. It is a terrible movie, but it is endlessly entertaining. The 3D version also, like just like another, like a huge misfire. What was with her age? She should have been 40 based on the timeline. It's baffling, but I think that movie's a little bit more enjoyable. I do not like the third one, like the Leatherface saw his family one. The remake, like the remake to me is like in the middle. Then the prequel, that one really just makes me feel yucky. It's just such a dour movie. And then I only saw the newer Leatherface once, but probably wouldn't watch that again. The prequel one, and then like the one that came out on Netflix. I've already forgotten all about it. And the not Sally Hardesty of it all, and just like God, whatever. Do it, cuz. Do your thing, cuz. Is the line. Like, how could you not appreciate that ridiculous camp? But yeah, not all of my opinions align with the general consensus. I know that, but yeah, Amethyst, the beginning is a long and miserable trudge. Sure is. The Rhapsodist, Tatum will not be Ghostface. Sydney will not kill her daughter. I mean, it's also, it feels like it would be too repetitive of the Jill thing again. Like we've seen Sydney be disappointed by a relative already. I don't think that they would go that route again. Raven FX3. 3D provided endless amounts of YouTube hate content. It was wonderful. I guess I wasn't really like looking on YouTube back then. When did that come out? Like 2012, 2013. But yeah, it's not a good movie. Most of the Texas Chainsaw is not good, but it's Joseph Wells. Hey, and Jill is a whiny brat. Jill, she can be. Here, my opinion, like I enjoy Jill. Jill to me is the equivalent of Eric Cartman from South Park. Like she's just better at hide. Like they're both like very manipulative. I think Jill's just sort of like, at least within the body of the movie, she's better at hiding it. But I always hear people say that Jill is the best Ghostface killer because she would have been the one to get away with it. She did the best to get away with it, or something like that. And I think like the way back when I did like a ranking video, and I think she was one, and I forget the criteria of that, but looking at it now, like from 2026 eyes of just sort of like Jill as a character, and like rewatching these movies so many times, Jill is actually kind of the sloppiest, because she was in the clear for, I mean, like, let's just pretend that Sydney did die. Let's pretend that, like, she got Charlie to kill Sydney. And who would have made sure that Sydney was dead. And that it wasn't a case of Dewey saying, like, she might still make it. Jill is laying in that bed, and she just talks too much. She says that, like, well, with our matching shoulder wounds about Gale. And immediately Dewey goes to Gale and says that. Gale put it together in not even a minute. So are we really thinking that Jill would have lasted as long as we think she would, that she would have gotten away with it? Out of all of the killers, she would have done better. It just does not make sense. The movie itself shows us that Jill was not meant to get away with it. So yeah, I take umbrage with that Jill was the best because she would have gotten away with it. Amethyst, Jill couldn't even keep the ruse up for 15 minutes, and that's why she's hilarious, a hilarious mess. That's what I love. I actually really love the hospital scene at the end because it's just so ridiculous and messy. It's just like watching this bratty teenage girl just like completely fuck up to the point where it's like you are backed into a corner and she still won't give up. She's just gonna go take it as far as she can just for that 15 minutes. It's kind of hysterical. Fate decided. Sarah, be careful. Jake might be watching. No idea. Okay, it's going fast. It's going fast. The Rhapsodist, I love that Jill seems like she's having the final girl torched past her by Sydney, and then she's revealed. Surprise! Mr. Jackson, 2010. Matthew McConaughey, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Raven, FX. Jill just couldn't contain herself. She was so giddy. She thought she was in the clear. Clear? It tracks with typical antisocial behavior. Yeah. She uses a bedpan as a weapon. Yeah, Blue Box 87. Okay, there's Mrs. Loomis slander going on. I don't need to know. I don't need to know about the Mrs. Loomis slander. It's Joseph Wells, Zach Cherry. I know Mickey Altieri is one of your favorite Ghostface killers. He is him. Okay, there's something about the combination of Mrs. Loomis and Mickey that I think just works so well. Like Billy and Stu are obviously a great pair, but they have a lot of scenes together. They have a lot of interaction together throughout the movie, whereas Mrs. Loomis and Mickey are kind of like they're these independent entities throughout most of it. And then even when they come together at the end, there's very little that we're given that, kind of just like to showcase who they are as a pair. But I think in that small amount of time, and even like when you take into context who they are throughout the movie on their own, I think it's like the performances, Laurie Metcalf, Timothy Oliphant, Wes Craven's direction, the editing of everything. It's just like all of it does such a great job to paint a very vivid picture of what their relationship is or was off screen that we didn't see. All of the little tidbits and hints, like I could just see these characters, this mismatched pair, co-conspiring to do all these things, like just like hanging out outside in the bushes of the Omega Beta Zeta house while like Mrs. Loomis is calling Cece, just being like, do you want to die tonight? And Mickey like slipping in and all that stuff. Like it's really fun. I think that they did a lot of groundwork to make that duo compatible. And I think that even as they stand on their own, they're both such great killers. So that's why they're always going to be my favorite. But that's just me. Zeblanam. By the way, I changed the configuration in the TV by lighting the F up for Scream 4, and it improved the movie by 50%. Yeah, it's crazy because it's a movie that like it looks dark even when it is bright, and in the daylight, like the contrast is just is so weird. But then like in the night scenes, like everything is very bright, but like still incredibly dark. It's like it doesn't know if it wants to be bright or dark. It's a hard movie on the eyes. Sam Riggerman. Hi, I just joined. Huge Scream fan. I'm not sure if it's been asked, but are you scared that Stu Macher will come back? How do you think they'll explain this if he does? I don't think he'll come back. I wouldn't be scared if he did. Or if he walked in and he was alive, I would just kind of be like, okay. I don't know that I would have I would definitely have an opinion, but I would not. I've gotten myself to a point with this franchise where I just sort of accept what happens as it happens, and then I just will have my opinion and critique about it. But I don't kind of like, I don't live and die by it. Like if something happens that I don't like, it's not going to ruin my day. But we'll see. We'll see how they handle the Stu mockery of it all. Sarah Campbell. Zach also has a. Oh, Sarah, thank you for advertising my Patreon. Yeah, you can head over to the Patreon. Links are in the banners or whatever you are on YouTube. You can easily find the links. And yeah, head there. You can join us as we live stream every week when we record the podcast of the Cherry Picker. I also do monthly reviews. If you are feeling, a little overzealous, you can get the Ghostface tier and do a video call hangout with me once a month. There's also shout outs, all that fun stuff. So, head over there. I don't really I never really promote the Patreon like too much on the main YouTube channel. It's mostly through the podcast. But yeah, head over there. I appreciate your support. You're keeping the engine running by doing that. And yeah, thank you, Sarah, for all that. Joseph Wells, if Stu were to return alive now is the time. If Stu were to return alive now is the time. Won't wait any longer. I don't know. I feel like the time would have been when Scream 3 came out. No, that's just how I see it. L4 Multisanti. Who are the four horsemen of the apocalypse from Ghostface? Like the four horsemen, like the Mount Rushmore, if you will. I would say Billy, Stu, Mickey, Mrs. Loomis. Not in any order, but yeah. Well, I mean, there would be an order, but it's Mount Rushmore, That's not to say I love Roman, I love Jill, I love Richie. I don't love Charlie, but I think that he's underrated. And I'm just there's the rest to me. Ren M. Angelina Tyler would be a cool character to see alive. I'm curious, what did Angelina do that, was so awesome that people really love her all that much? I'm just curious. She just seemed like a weird, very inconsistent character to me, kind of wacky, and she fucked Milton to get the role in the movie. So I don't know. Maybe there's something about her that I'm missing, or just the fact that she was supposed to be the killer. Chris Wildfire, how questions from Scream like why did Tatum have an extra bed in her room, and can you die from a TV? I don't know. Has no one ever been to a friend's house and they've had twin beds and stuff? Maybe Tatum just has Sydney over, a lot of friends over for sleepovers, or maybe there was a twin that died or was shipped off to boarding school. Wouldn't Rose McGowan love that? But otherwise, I don't know. And Thea the Tiefling. Hopefully I got that right. If you could rearrange the Ghostface pairings to make the ultimate Ghostface team. Oh. I don't know. I think that I like them how they are. I was saying earlier that I think that Jill probably would have done really well with Wayne Bailey. If that was her father or something, I think that they would be a good pairing. But I mean, that wouldn't necessarily be a pairing that I would love to see. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe Billy and Mrs. Loomis, mother son. Let's see. I don't want to skip over things, but we've I need it to go back to the bottom. T Frizzy, TJ Frizzy. Do you think the series has just been repeating themes and plot points and not really taking the series in a different direction? All the movies have the past coming back, family connections, etc. I think that I think the first four are all very unique in their own way. I think that five was unique in a sense that it was like kind of like more thematically about toxic fandoms, and that worked. I think that six is where they really kind of just had nothing to say. And if that's the case, then I don't like, like the thing is like there with the movies, like on the surface level, there was always something to talk about, like Scream One kind of being like horror movies and their effect on society, and just like the sensationalization of like the news media and all that. Scream 2 was about like the kind of the effects of fame. Scream 3, like the Hollywood corruption. Scream 4, social media influence, and Scream 5, obviously like toxic fandom, and like online fan culture. And 6, I mean, there was like a cancel culture, like a crumb of it, but it never really was relevant to the overall plot. And then of course there's like the like this is about horror movies. This is sequels, trilogies, remakes, requels, franchise. Like that feels very flimsy. Like there was only so much they could do with that, and they've gone to a point where they're like, what are they gonna say now? So I mean, it's always, I think like the strongest one was like more in Scream 2, like how like fame, like the pursuit of fame, like can corrupt people, and like so many characters in that movie are influenced it, like just sort of like the way that Gale has this newfound fame now. Sydney has all the fame in the world. She wants nothing to do with it. Mickey is trying to exploit everything for the idea of fame, and then like Cotton is looking for his 15 minutes of fame. Like it's just something that's like thematically links all these characters together. That kind of like, that's maybe my disappointment with 5 a little, is that like they were really leaning into the toxic fandom of it all. I think that what they should have done with Amber and Richie was kind of have a moment with them where they are like these vicious killers, like yelling at Sydney and Sam, and then they kind of turn around to each other and start disagreeing because they don't have the same opinions as they thought, or there's just like different things, and that could have been a fun way for Sydney and Sam to get the upper hand on them, whether that be like they were distracted, or to like psychologically like they piss them off and just be like, well, actually I prefer stab 4, like just something like that. So, Dance Century, Yo Zach, Stu is alive in Scream 2, remember? I mean, no, that wasn't him. Okay, I'm going to the bottom. I want it to like be alive. Raven FX, it's always felt like Radio Silence doesn't necessarily have anything to say in earnest. They just have ideas that make it into the script and then get lost in the sauce. I don't know. I think that like Radio Silence are like, in terms of like technical aspects of things, like I think that they make very competent films. I get the impression like I loved Ready or Not. I think they did a good job with that. I think that they added things to the script that actually enhanced the movie. I don't know that they're like, obviously I have my opinions about 5 and 6. So I don't know that anything was really like added, or that they challenged the material in a way. It always felt like they were kind of, you know, directors for hire, and the writers were more so calling the shots than they were. At least that's the impression that was given off, with sort of like the vibe of like all of them together, especially in the commentary. So I don't know. I don't know if, like how much say they really got at the end of the day, but clearly they did not want to come back and do it again for a seventh movie. J Rod, I hope Scream 7 goes crazy at the box office so Kevin Williamson can feel awesome for his efforts and the studio can keep him for the other 3 movies in the works, assuming this will be a quadrilogy. I mean, yeah, I mean, I always want horror movies to do well. especially for this franchise. I think that whatever the case may be, like this is going to be a successful movie. Uh, in spite of what people might think. I read that it was already tracking to make 30 million in its first weekend, which is pretty impressive. And yeah, I mean the thing is, it's just like for the way that it's being marketed, like they're really honing in on the people who want to see this movie. So and regardless if there's like people who are very like anti Scream 7 right now, you're talking about it. Like that there every conversation that you go online is about Scream 7. So even if you are boycotting Scream 7, you are making it trend. You are like that's the thing. It's just like you might not see it. You might say you're not seeing it. I don't know if you are following through with that. Frankly, that's none of my business, and I'm perfectly happy for you to do whatever you want. But in your pursuit of taking it down, that reach is moving farther, and it's moving farther to people who also probably want to boycott the movie, but it's also reaching people who don't want to boycott the movie and might have even not known that there was a movie coming out. My sister actually called me a few weeks ago, and I guess this was after the trailer or one of the TV spots had just dropped, and she's like, "Is there a new Scream movie coming out?" Because she didn't know, and I was like, "Yeah, end of February." So that's the thing. It's just like you are actually doing work for the studio by promoting this movie. Like all press is good press. Like I don't believe in bad publicity in that way. That like if you're talking about something, you are making it trend. You are making it relevant. So I think that right now more than ever, like Scream is so relevant because of all of the conversations that are being had around it, whether it's positive or negative. Like I've certainly had my trepidations about the movie and, not thinking that I'm going to like it as much or that it looks as good as, what we've had in the past. But I'm going to see the movie. I'm probably going to see it multiple times. I'm going to own it. So, I'm just letting people know that, it's if you're talking about it, you're making it relevant. If you want something to fail, you just stop talking about it. So as long as we're talking about it, it's going to be relevant. Critical Overlord Zach, does Sydney need a new trilogy? No, I don't think so. I mean that's entirely contingent on what comes out of this movie. If we see the start of a brand new story, then that could lead into a new trilogy. But for all intents and purposes, I feel that Sydney's story was wrapped up in the way that it was in 3. Even though, I enjoy Scream 4 for what it is, but I feel like Sydney is a very passive character within that movie. I don't think that she's really actively changing anything in the story. It's just sort of like things are happening to her. And by the end of the movie, all of the characters, Sydney, Gale, and Dewey, are the exact same people they were at the end of the movie from when they were at the start, which you can't really say the same for Screams 1, 2, and 3. They all go through a transformation. Their arc changes them in the movie, and Scream 4 is just sort of there. So with whatever it is, like obviously we're seeing a new side to Sydney. We're seeing her as a mother, which is a new perspective of that character that we've never seen before. Obviously, she was a mother during Scream 5, but we did not see those relationships. So there could be an opportunity, but just from like a story point, a new trilogy for her, I don't really know what it would be, at least without more context of like what Scream 7 will be about. J Rod, I'm hearing that Marco Beltrami made a dedicated score track for Tatum's character, assuming it'll be titled Tatum's Lament, like Sydney's Lament, which would definitely tell us Isabel May is the new. Yeah, I mean, music. I mean, music is another opportunity to tell a story, and there's certainly ways that music can misdirect us, and it can also like give us clues as to what the movie is. So I don't know. I'm actually very eager for when the soundtrack is going to be released so I can download it. But yeah, that remains to be seen. Uh, Valentino, I hope we move on from Sydney. I mean, I hope that Sydney just gets like an actual happy ending and a happy ending for real. Also, I'm going to call it right now. Uh, Once we hit in 13 minutes, we're gonna end this. Just because 3 hours. You guys have been so much fun tonight, though, because like it has not felt like 3 hours. We still got tons of people in here, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I can't go on forever talking about this, and I'm probably gonna have to go pee again real soon. So yeah, let's give it 13 more minutes here. Um, Jack Jenkins theory: someone related to Roman is the killer in Scream Seven. I mean, if that's the case, then are they related to Sydney as well, or is it like Roman's adoptive family, or what was the situation with Roman? But again, I think that like we're doing the same thing over if it's a relative. There is like okay, so let's look at like Scream 1 to 6. I think there's so much distinction between the killers and their plots. Like everyone always says, oh, well, they're trying to get revenge. Like Billy was trying to get revenge on Sydney. That was not a revenge story. Billy's motivations were more so rooted in like his insecurities and just sort of like the way that Sydney kind of like withdrew from their relationship. Like he took that personally because it seemed like, at least in his mind, of like killing her mother, that sort of would reset the balance of just sort of what had happened, of like his mother leaving town. But because that created this domino effect and like pushed Sydney farther away, I think that in Billy's mind that sort of worked against him for what he was trying to achieve. So he, to justify that, decided that like, Sydney was also the problem. I don't think that he ever set out to do what had happened. They were going to kill Maureen, and then it was never like decided, oh, next year let's do this. It was something that slowly built. With Scream 2, obviously, and let's not forget Stu, which is like very much the peer pressure of it all. Scream 2, Mrs. Loomis, that is like the ultimate like relative of the killer. I'm coming after you to revenge them. Mickey, again, in his pursuit of fame and trying to kind of it's almost like it's part like seeking fame, but also I think it's like the challenge of bucking the system, bucking the legal system, because I think that was very appealing for him. With Scream 3, with Roman, that to me, that is jealousy. Like Roman is purely motivated by the jealousy because like he was rejected by Maureen, and in spite of everything that happened, Sydney was the one that got to be the hero, got to be the star of the show. And I think that Roman felt that he was entitled to that. And that's why he went after Sydney. People say that Jill was jealous of Sydney. I don't see it the same way. I don't think that she was jealous of Sydney's fame because it's different from Roman, where Roman felt entitled to it. I don't think that Jill knows that she is not entitled to that. Jill is an opportunist, and Jill saw a way that she could use what had happened to Sydney for her benefit. And that's there's almost like this cold detachment to Jill's motivation, because I don't think that there is jealousy. I think that it's just sort of like, this is like, you're an idiot because you have this and you're not doing with it what I would do with it. And that's why she's, wanting to take over the mantle. Charlie, completely driven by, his need to impress Jill, or just sort of like whatever he has to do to be with her, romantically or sexually. And then with Richie and Amber, I mean, they're sort of both set up as being these fans of Stab. I never get the impression that Amber is a fan of Stab. Like, obviously that's how they met, But she just seems more of like, this is fun. Like, it's almost like more of like the stew of it all. So maybe that's like, that is one that's a little bit repetitive in my sense. I did a whole video where I talked about them. There's a little bit more nuance to Amber. I'm not a fan of Amber, but I'll give her that. I think that there's at least a little bit more originality with the Kirsch family, Baileys, whatever the fuck you want to call them, in 6. That's where it was just sort of like, we're just completely recycling it. There was nothing new in terms of a motivation that was going on there. And even like Jason, Tony Revolori's character in the beginning, like he was just like, I'm just finishing Richie's movie. So yeah, Scream 6 really doubled down on the let's just repeat the past. Thank you, Don't Kill Me, Mr. Ghostface 1993 for the $10. My argument for anyone who asks how Amber lifted Dewey, which she didn't, is how did Mickey lifting and throwing Cece or Charlie / Jill lifting is how did Mickey lifting and throwing Cece or Charlie / Jill lifting and throwing Rebecca. Yeah, I mean, well, like Mickey is a lot bigger than Jill and Charlie. For anyone who's just like questions the whole Amber of it all and like the killing Dewey, go like watch that scene. She doesn't lift him. So what is happening is she is down on the floor because that's where she like takes out the knife and then stabs him in the gut. And it's like the camera is doing this thing where like just the movement of the camera where it's kind of like tilting and going down, but it makes it look like he is being lifted up. But all it is doing is like the camera is sinking down and he's jolting from the pain of getting stabbed. But it's not, but she's still crouched down. She's still low to the floor. She's not standing. So we even see his feet. There's a shot and he's kind of, like what, do you ever like get like a jolt of pain or like you have like, I don't know, like a body ache or something. Like I always like when that happens, like my feet tense, like my toes tense. And like he's not standing on his tippy toes in a way. He's not being lifted off of the ground, but his feet are like tensing. But if you look at it, he is not being lifted. So, it's that whole scene is entirely possible. MB, hey buddy, after the live, can I see the video news Kyle Winters about Kyle Winters? I have no idea what. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you elaborate? Critical Overlord. I'm afraid you're being too logical and reasonable, Zach. I mean, well, that's my fatal flaw. I'm waiting to see this lift off the ground. Yeah. Like just go watch it. Go frame by frame. You all have the movie. I got it right here. Got the steelbook. This is the artwork that I was talking about, like the teaser Scream 5 poster. Love that one. Raven FX, it's like a Dutch angle that makes it look like she's lifting, but she's not. Sarah Campbell, I didn't need the play-by-play of my man's death tonight. I'm sorry, Sarah. Joseph Wells, the only argument is Ghostface being taller than Amber. Well, okay, this is an issue with the movies where they've certainly had the killers all be like these really, like tiny or just like, like shorter than 5'5" killers who are clearly played by stunt actors who are 5'10" or taller. So that doesn't help. And the fact that they, in the commentary, they even say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the shoes are or what that. I mean, like, I think that there's still, like, you need to have some sort of attention to detail because regardless of, like, what, like, little things here and there, Wes Craven was such a detail-oriented filmmaker, and I don't think that same level of attention was brought to 5 and 6. Ellie Victor Soffer, I would like to see Linda Cardellini as Sam and Tara's mom. Revenging for the off-camera death of her daughters by someone in a Ghostface costume, blaming Sydney for everything that happened. Well, we are getting Linda Cardellini as Mrs. Voorhees in this Crystal Lake show. So that'll be the trade-off. Interstellar with 3s. Wise as ever, LOL. Big fan. Keep up the great work. Thanks for doing all of this. I love these. Well, thank you, Interstellar, or should I say Thriller. I also love the breakdown of where the killers are during the scenes. Thank you. And I have many more coming down the pipeline. There's at least going to be 18 more Who Killed Who videos, and probably more with Scream 7, hopefully. Last time I checked, Amber isn't 6'4". No, Joseph, she is not. The Rhapsodist, Logic is not a friend of the Scream universe. Sedward, why can't they just let the actors play Ghostface? I mean, probably because of just the stunts and things like that. There's certain things that need to be achieved. J-Rod, yeah, that's the problem I've had with Scream movies. These tiny 5-foot petite female killers that are tossing and lifting grown men. I mean, technically, I don't think that Jill was ever in the costume other than when she pops out and then, maybe in some deleted scenes in Scream 4. But, I know people will disagree, but the one who kills the cops had to have been Charlie. He takes their gun and even gives it to Jill at the end and says the cops would have wanted you to have this. But that's a whole other conversation. TJ Frizzy, I mean, come on. G-Face almost flies when attacking Gale in Scream 6. We have to expect some physics issues, LOL. And throwing the guy through the bookshelf, too. Let's not forget that. Haunted Home Video. Well, I watched Scream 5 in 3D, so Amber definitely lifted Dewey to high heaven. Critical Overlord. It's rough. The rough summary of this Crystal Lake pilot is depressing in a good way. I still would have been interested to see what Brian Fuller's Crystal Lake would have been. Chris Wildfire maybe has super strength like some other killers that have been women. Blue Box. I mean, yeah. I mean, spoilers for Urban Legend, a movie that's 26 years old. But I mean, Brenda, absolutely. Working Alone too. I can suspend disbelief for that. I mean, it's all about the reveal and that campy monologue. Blue Box 87 only with Charlie. Joseph Wells. Quinn did it to Gale's bodyguard, apparently. Valentino. Any update on Scream 1 to 3 Who Killed Who remasters? Yeah, and Scream 4. So next up is going to be the Who Killed Who before the events of Scream. So it's like the Maureen Prescott of it all. And then we're going to go into 2. I might go ahead and do the Who Killed Who in Scream 1 after that. And then just go bit by bit. I'm still trying to figure it out. But they're all coming. Anyway, it is 10 o'clock here. So I'm going to say good night. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you for all the super chats and the questions. I'm sorry if I missed your questions. Tried to get as many as possible. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. And appreciate you all. And, with Scream 7, there's going to be a lot more content coming out. So look forward to that. Maybe we'll do another live stream. But until then, I've been Zach Sherry, and I'll be right back.